Diary of Helen Kimball Whitney. In the year of our Lord, 1889, New Year's Day, and a pretty sick one for me, had a chill from going into the other room, so cold soul came and spent quite a while and took dinner in George's Lil, and I invited, but I was too sick to eat much. The eclipse came about that time Soul and George administered to the baby, who is still quite sick. My head terrible. Wednesday 2nd. Was too sick to get up, but had to as baby was so sick and no one to take my place. Lil felt pretty bad, had worse chills and more of them. Thursday 3D. So bad couldn't get up and sent for Flawed. She soon came and did all she could of the work and helping me, my head dreadful, and Lou calling without knowing of our sickness offered her services. She administered the chloroform to my head. Then she got me some things down street. Mary Whitney had our old set at her house by appointment. Rachel and Henriette Simmons called to see me, also Ellen Clausen. Sisters Zena Young and B. Smith called to invite me to a gathering at the latter's sisters the next day. Baby better. Friday 4th, Flotty came again. I dressed and kept up all day for baby's sake, having to keep him asleep, or try to, and couldn't get a chance to lay down. Besides, it made me cough worse. Lou called and assisted again, and Flawed cleaned cupboards and kitchen, cooked dinner, and did up the work. She has a cold in her head. Saturday 5th was a dreadful hard day. Still, I was no worse, only more weak. At evening, Lil could do nothing, only as I took care of her baby. Got a letter from Jenny. Sunday 6th, sat in the smallest room, no one able to clean the big one. Zula Kimball came with her babe 3 and spent a while. The weather awful cold. The artist, Bro. Morris, died in New York from gas Saturday last. At about 4 o'clock of the same day, Clara Decker Young died, was sick about a week. Mon 7th, took cold being in the draft, had a chill in consequence, and cough worse. Racy came to bring me the coffee, and I asked him to go to Dinwiddie's and ask Hen if Flawed was sick, the reason she'd not been here, if not to telephone to her to come to me as I was worse, but not to do it if she was sick, and to tell his pa that I was worse and to pray for me. He didn't find Hen, and Flo Clausen telephoned, and Flawed was soon up here as pale as death, having been sick with a cold, and did no good, only worried me her coming out in the cold. Racy told his pa that I was worse and wanted him to come and administer to me, having misunderstand me, and he and Zine came at evening. He said he didn't feel much spirit, had been to Clara Young's funeral, but he administered to me, and also to Helen and baby, blessing and naming the latter Genevieve. Tuesday 8th. Cough still terrible. I corked the north window and then had a chill and obliged to lie down while the fever was on. My body did not pain me as it did Monday, and I felt comfortable in the evening. Wed 9th. Had another sick day, cough distressing. Got some pain annihilator at T.O. Total went for it yesterday. I mixed it with molasses, coughed less in the night. Hope I'll not have many more such days. Minnie, daughter of Bro W.M.H. Kimball, and Martha called to see us this evening. Thursday 10th. Lovely morning, had a good night, but felt sick again on rising. Felt comfortable last evening and sat till 11 o'clock. Made baby another cap after he and mothered retired. His cough has nearly left him. Those dreadful spells began this afternoon in earnest. Had 2 or 3 within the last 3 days as premonitions. Flawed came up and took care of Lil's baby, Lil washing, and cleaned my big room before leaving. Friday 11th. Cold giving way, and also my strength from the death-like spells, and not able to eat what's needful. Mary Whitney kindly brings me dinner to tempt me daily, and some more sent from Henty's. Took only rice soup, which Mary brought. Felt about discouraged today, so feeble and spiritless, and obliged to take care of Lil's baby while she attends to the work. Able or not. Saturday 12th. Better this morning. Received a letter from Bro Abe in Canosh, dated January 8th. Looked over papers and selected whatever they contained of interest to send east, and to Jen in Aspen, and had 2 deathly spasms at evening. Lou Barton called at eve. Total got me some meat at our market. My cough has been very troublesome today. Taken a little more cold. Sun 13th. Felt wretchedly weak, and deathly overdid myself yesterday. Soul calling, asked him to administer to me. He called George to assist him. Flawed and Henry called. They'd all been to the funeral of Bro W.M.C. Morris. It snowed most of the day, for which we're grateful. Mon 14th. Weak and sinking half the day. Henty's girl seeing me proposed, making me toast with hot port wine put on it. It relished and strengthened me more than anything else. Had palpitation of the heart so bad before breakfast. Waited over an hour before taking coffee, etc. and didn't relish it. Then received 2 letters from Jen dated the 9th and 11th. Little Eddie has a tooth at last, and 2 upper ones cutting through. Tuesday 15th. Mary Whitney came to get me to write to O.F. I did so, and Tuttle took it to him on his way to school. Had palpitation of the heart, and felt very poorly. Part of the day wrote part of a letter to Jen. This afternoon Polly Stevens came here, and gave me a letter from Jen to read. And read me a short one from Johnny Talbot. We're having some snow, which we're grateful for. Wednesday 16th. Lovely day. Elle's baby was sick all night. He had a fever, and cried. Got up at 11 o'clock and held him, and dropped warm consecrated oil in his ears, slept, and I laid him down and retired. Lil got very little sleep towards morning. As he was crying and wouldn't nurse, I went and gave him a drink of water, and he took the breast. Got more cold in my left side. Lil washed some for baby, and I rinsed some dites after dark. Feel fearful of an addition to my pleurisy. Finish my letter to Jen this afternoon. Baby better. Thursday 17th. Weather very cold. My side real bad. Hurts me to move or draw a good breath. Applied almost clear turpentine last night, but did me no good. Put on coal oil today, taking quinine, and giving it to Lil. She has an awful cough. Josh called towards night with Mary Jane and Roscoe. He told us a dream. He thought he passed through a door into a room where my father and brother Heber and others were. As he saw Heber sitting on a bench, he sat down by him, and father said, "Well, Joshua, you've got here." Friday 18th. Snowing again. My side worse. Washed all over in alcohol. Put on clean clothes and thought I'd do nothing more for my side, but feeling so sick tried bags of hot salt, and continued taking quinine, and towards night felt much relieved, and could breathe more satisfactory. Saturday 19th. Side as bad as ever this morning. Felt almost discouraged. Applied hot salt again, and took quinine. Was relieved of that, but have taken a fresh cold on my lungs and cough incessantly till my throat and lungs are painful. Wrote another note to Orson on Bucinus. Little Willie Calder died today of diphtheria. Poor Alice. Phoebe Kimball called this afternoon to see how I did. Sunday 20th. My side better today, and my lungs are healed. Put on wet cloth and flannel last night, and took away the inflammation. My side still sore, and I've again applied hot salt bags. Soul spent a while, and Orson called. We're on their way to their circle. Dolph Whitney called with his wife and child. After meeting Orson, Zine, Flawed, and Hen came, and Orson said he felt like administering to me, and asked if I'd like him to. I was pleased to have him. He anointed and asked Henry to lay hands on me. With him gave me an extraordinary blessing, rebuking disease, and the power of death and the destroyer. He commanded to leave here and not return, etc. Then Lil asked to be administered to, which they did, she having taken more cold. Flawed and Hen remained till tea was time to go to meeting at our chapel. She said she felt so much better after hearing Orson pray for me and bless me. She admonished me to hold to them and not doubt. They'd enjoyed the preaching at the tabernacle. Bro Palmer was one of the speakers. Mon 21st. Helen received a letter from Jenny. I've had a light chill and fever. Body and head ached, and poorly enough had to give up. Have prayed without ceasing that I might receive the promised blessing, but like Mother Whitney, I'll try to think that the Lord's time is the best time. Tuesday 22nd. Snowing. I coughed more than usual in the night, and felt languid and sinking this morning. $60. In T.O. orders received yesterday by me and Mary. She sent to Bro Patrick for them, and I got Clark to go and pay for my last load of coal. He got me 2 pounds of cooking butter at T.O. Tried to get me a load of coal, but was told they could not without an order from the BP. Would 23D some better till wearied out taking care of baby L. Getting dinner obliged me to do it. Sister Kravith died at her daughter Laura's in Camas. They'll bring her here, and the funeral be held at Mary Whitney's. I finished a letter to Jen commenced yesterday. Thursday 24th. Better decidedly for half the day, but my strength exhaust, and poorly the rest of the day. Dr. Barney called at eve, not knowing how I was, but saw my condition and acted upon it. Went to drugstore and got a bottle of elixir of gentian, etc., to tone up my system, then to her house and brought me some physic to work upon my liver, etc., though my left lung being so sore and painful indicated inflammation, and in reply to my question admitted that there was danger of lung fever, charged me over and over to be strict in taking her prescriptions and avoid exposing myself. In the forenoon, I'd applied a mustard poultice to my side, but it being so tender I was wild with pain, being like coals of fire, and kept it on hardly 5 minutes, fling it in the fire and put a cloth saturated with oil on it, concluding to do nothing more. Flawed called towards night, and again at eve hen with her, as Bud asked her to come and practice some hymns with him and other members of his family. Ward packed to sing at his grandmother's funeral to be held tomorrow at his mother's. Their voices sound charming, and also the music. Friday 25th, spent a more comfortable day than usual. Sister Mary B. Kimball came after the funeral and spent the afternoon relieving me of taking care of the baby. My side better this evening. Think Dr. Barney's medicine has done part of it. She thought it imprudent for me to go to the funeral, so I gave it up as much as I desired to go. My load of coal came yesterday. Clark has been very kind to go of errands and bring things from T.O. and stores for me. George went and got me some mustard plasters at drugstore, the doctor ordering the same, and George got it for me. Saturday 26th. My side worse this morning, but better afternoon. Have used mustard plasters last night and today, but to little effect so far. My cough troublesome, hurting my side, causing it to pain me. Mary Ellen came again and is to stay tonight. She's done some ironing. And C. Dr. B. called as she was passing. She'd been thrown from her cutter, hurting her wrist, etc. Polly Stevenson called, gave me a recipe for cough, and I sent to George, by Mary Whitney, to get them at drugstore, and 4 other things from Coop which he sent or brought me. Sunday 27th. My side better, coughed less last night. Soul called and spent a while before meeting, said he would have me prayed for in the circle if I wished. Spent the day in my big room. Weather very pleasant. Mon 28th. Still better. Flawed called a few minutes, received a letter from Jen's sister J. Called, brought Lil 2 white aprons, and left $2 for her. I received an invitation from Mrs. Dougal and Mrs. Beatty to the birthday anniversary of Mrs. Zena D. Young, Thursday, January 31st. Tuesday 29th. Felt more poorly, cough worse, got George to get me things and Coop and drugstore. Wednesday 30th. Felt very sick half the day, side worse, got Faye and boys to take 5 hens to T.O. for tithing, was allowed $1.36 for them. Had 2 or 3 deathly spells this week. Thursday 31st. Another sick forenoon, my side worse than yesterday, the baby sick and cried through the night. Lil feels the loss of sleep. We had 2 young chickens killed and cooked for dinner. Helen ate with us. George at the store taking in stock and not home to dinner. Concluded to send for Bro Nicholson to administer to me. He was gone from the news off before word got there. Friday, February 1st. So much better, sat up all day. Mary Ellen went home not well. Flawed called near night. Mary's Tootle went for Bro Nicholson, promised to come at 4 o'clock. Saturday 2nd. Poorly this morning. Orson called with a young Whitney from Ohio, been to Sacramento for his health, and is on his way home. Resembles little Race, and Orson thinks he looks like John's Newell. He is grandson of Uncle Sam Whitney's daughter, Mrs. Talbot. He's fine looking. Put up with Orson last night. I expect Bro Nicholson to administer to me, but for some reason he's not come. Got a letter from Jen and L1 from Bro R. In Logan, was just finishing one to him, and acknowledged this, and $5 enclosed therein. Talks of visiting Salt Lake City. Son, 3D. Took a bath before retiring last night. Weather so mild. Got up and opened my door in the night. Felt smothered. Thought I was better this morning till commencing to cough. Was poorly through forenoon. Had headache. Soul called, got him to administer to me. Mary E. laid hands on with him by his request. Anna Christensen came to see me. Sister Jeanette called in the evening. Mary sent me some lunch and came in afterwards. Has hurt her leg slipping on the ice and very lame. Mon 4th. Flawed came according to promise to stay a couple of days. Mary Ellen gone home. Hen gone to Ogden, returns tomorrow. Cornelia Clayton and Nettie Snell called this afternoon. I'm gaining in strength, hence spent the afternoon with us with children. Tuesday 5th. Flawed left after dinner. She got an early 1:10, having to go to the dentist's. Lil washing for baby. Mary Ellen called. I'm still gaining. Did up papers to send General Cousin Libby and Mrs. Wiley. And wrote Jenna postal. Flawed will come for Lil, baby, and myself tomorrow. Wednesday 6th, packed up our things and Flawed came for us about 4 o'clock. My strength used up many times before being ready. But after Flawed warmed her room, laid down and rested when I felt all right. Phoebe K. called this forenoon to let me read a letter from Caroline Kimball full of sadness. Her troubles overwhelm her in Utah, as well as in the South, cannot persuade her son on whom she depended to come to her. So thinks she'll have to go back to them. Phoebe was gathering a sum of money to pay a cash debt for Kat and Logan. Thursday 7th, a light fall of snow. Enjoyed a good night's sleep. Dreamed of Horace's embracing me, which I at first sought to resist, but he caught me in his arms when I returned the embrace. Felt more poorly. Afternoon, the effects of yesterday's work. Friday 8th. After bathing, baby mended the sleeves of my dress. Helen arrived with her baby before I'd finished. Brought some letters, one from Jen to her, quite a gathering of sisters, there being Helen and Lil, and 4 of Mary's. Hindered from coming by visitors. Zine brought Mrs. Reed, a relative of young Talbot, grandson of Sam Whitney of Kirtland, who passed through here last week. She's also on her way home from Calto, Ohio. Leaves tomorrow morning. Polly Stevenson was here also. Flo Clausen. Orson came down in time to take refreshments, which were passed round. Everything was good. Had a pleasant time. Saturday 9th, commenced a letter to Jen, but hindered by baby not feeling as well as yesterday per night. Sunday 10th, slept poorly and feel poorly. We took dinner at Hen's mother's. Flo treated us to music on the piano. Flawed played and sang a little. She and Hen went to evening meeting. Lil and I returned home. Mon 11th, laid awake half the night. Feel badly, cough worse, also my left side. Hen left on the morning train for the South. Drumming for washing machines for his father. Intended going home today. But Flawed wants us to stay, and we're quite willing. They've got out a 2 weeks washing this forenoon, commenced by Hen after meeting last evening, so not to leave it all for Flawed. She received a letter from Jenny today. She went up home and got me one of my small pillows, and the baby's and my consecrated oil. I had a deathly spell after dark from being exhausted, the worst I've had for months. Tuesday 12th, slept, but had palpitation of the heart this morning. Have little relish for food as yet. Wednesday 13th, managed to finish my letter to Jen. Commenced Saturday last. Florence visited the dentist and got another tooth filled. Went to Dr. Ellis Ship, who is doctoring her. Hen got home at dark. They went to a ball at the Opera House, but took no part. Thursday 14th, Flawed got me some medicine from Coop store. My health improving since getting some rest. Friday 15th, washed out several dieties for baby, and afternoon put a basque together for Flawed and fitted it while we conversed upon religion, etc. She appreciated all I told her of spiritual things. She's had my sewing machine brought down, as I told her she could. Is making over her gray flannel dress. Saturday 16th, sighed worse for working yesterday. Flawed visits Dr. Ellis Ship daily. Sunday 17th, spent with Elle and baby. Flawed and Hen going to Tabernacle, from there to dinner at Joseph Jennings. Mon 18th, worked buttonholes in Flawed's basque and put color on it. Hen did the washing at evening, all but rinsing them, and retired at 10 o'clock. Tuesday 19th, Hen wrung the clothes before going to work. Flawed starched and put them out. She proposed our getting baby's picture on the way home, so they ironed his best dress, and we called on the way at Fox and Simon's and got his picture. Got home about 5 o'clock. My chimneys were filled with snow, and my rooms got a good smoking on making fires. Flawed gave us a pound of butter, a roast of pork, and can of chip dried beef. And on the way I had her get me a loaf of bread and some cakes. Got her to get out at Exponent office and get my papers also. Wednesday 20th. Horrid day. The water had not been running in the pipes for nearly 2 weeks, and Lil not able to get down or up the bank out in the street. Had to get Roy and Faye to bring a little. Was expecting a wash woman, and she fooled us. So Lil had to wash for herself, and baby fell short of water and had to leave them, and all the dishes, breakfast, dinner, and supper. I'm used up tending baby, and both provoked that we didn't stay with Flawed. Thursday 21st. Lil got Flora to help her get water and wash dishes and got out her washing, and I swept, cleaned the walls, pictures, and took down some, moved every piece of furniture but stove in our dining room, and dusted most of them. The pain in my left side worse, and felt sick from it, but much better in spirits to feel I had a cleaner place to sit and eat in. The proof of baby's picture pretty good, and Flora took it back today. Friday, 22nd. Washington's birthday. I washed a few articles, and Lil washed more for baby. We took dinner with George, and Helen wrote part of a letter to Jen. Saturday, 23d. Lil cleaned up the house and ironed some. I finished my letter and did little else but tend baby. Felt stronger though my side pain me considerably. Soul called also Mary Ellen and spent a while. Sunday, 24th. Last evening was awakened from my first nap by one of those deathly spells and had them all night, though light till this morning. They increased and hung on till eve. When they grew lighter, every one prostrated me lower and lower. Mon 25th. Received a letter from Jen. Did up 4 parcels of papers to send away. One to Jenny. Had a few deathly spells, but not to sink me. Flawed called and took little Helen home with her. Will send for me tomorrow to stop a few days, and M.E., who is here, will stay with Lil. Soul took my name to the circle to be prayed for yesterday. Mary E. went home and received an invitation and brought me one to a party in 14th Ward Schoolhouse tomorrow eve. President Woodruff and George Q. Cannon's sermons at Tabernacle yesterday were in this evening news. Read George Q's before prayer. Most excellent sermon I ever heard from him. Lil complaining of a bad back, she having to carry the water now from the west side of the block nearly to the tithing office, when she can get no one else to do it. Tuesday, 26th. The weather mild. Feel more sick and reduced today. Got my things ready to go to Flawed's, as agreed yesterday. When she came up was sent for near night. Had palpitation of the heart afterwards and felt very poorly. I enjoyed the ride, very refreshing. Wednesday, 27th. Some better, though troubled still with deathly spells. Flawed took me out riding this afternoon. Felt greatly benefited. Called at City Hall to get Orson to write me an order on BP Preston to get a load of coal from there. Went home, found little Helen sick. She'd been delirious all night. Had wished Flawed to go for Orson to administer to her. Dr. White attended on her. Found my little family while the washing was being done by Hence washwoman. On our way back called at T.O. and paid for a load of coal. Found Orson at D. News promised he'd go to Helen's. Went into X office and got my papers and to Coop DG store for syringe and a cake of sulfur soap. Got some cocoa cakes at Scracey's. Rode around a little and came home. Hen and Flawed fixing for the benefit of orphans home nursing. Orson promised he'd take dinner with us tomorrow. His family's gone to Provo. Thursday, 28th. Deathly spells every few minutes all night, and still afflicting me. I made my fire, there being a bed of coals. All I did was to rake out ashes and put on coal and blower. Hen and Flawed being asleep. Orson came to dinner as he agreed yesterday. Enjoyed the short visit. I gave him Flawed's dream to read. He said he'd like Hebe Wells to hear it. I told him he could take it. Oh! Asked for Hen's guitar. Flawed got it, but one string being gone, and taking time to string and tune it, left little for playing. As he was going with the apostles to the lake at 2 o'clock, Flawed took me out riding. Was feeling very sick from deathly spells, which increased afternoon harder and oftener till my spirit sunk with them. Enjoyed the ride. Quite a cold wind from the northwest. Called home, found little Helen all right and all well. Little Joseph cried for me. Lil was ironing. She gave me a loaf of her brown bread on our return. Called at T.O. and got some GRM flour to bake us some. Was invited down to Sister D's to stay the night, but felt too poorly, preferring to stay here, though Flawed would hardly consent to leave me here. She and Hen being invited up to M. Piper's to an evening party. Friday, March 1st, comes in like a lamb, so will go out like a lion, according to the old adage. Felt better in body, though I had those deathly spells occasionally all day. Flawed took me out in the buggy. Called at Lou Barton's, found her gone past Soul's house, and his wife sent her boy to hail us. Returned, and she urged us to go in, but were engaged to visit at Sister Dinwiddie's. We told her. Called home, all well. Lil's baby cried for me the moment he saw me, sweet little lamb. Dressed and went to Sister D's on our return. Mrs. D.S. Benedict, Mrs. Priscilla Wrightson, Mr. Joe Jennings and family were there taking dinner. Were behind time. Saturday, 2nd. After breakfast, washed up the dishes and did a little cleaning. Flawed sick after cleaning rooms and getting dinner going. She went to bed. and I got it ready and on the table and baked the bread. We took a ride, and passing the 14th Ward schoolhouse found the R.S. had a meeting had F. Leave me there was warmly greeted by Sister Horn and others Wells called first to speak, and then myself had spoken but a few words when Bro. G.Q. Canon came. Sister Horn being informed went to the door and escorted him to the stand when all in the room arose from their seats to honor him. I was about to sit down, but he wouldn't admit of it. I spoke a few words and closed, as he'd come to speak to us. B. Wells had told us that he spoke of meeting the sisters this afternoon, but thought it too late to look for him. She thought, when he did come we ought to rise upon our feet, so it was done, and gracefully too. He gave some excellent advice upon different things. Flawed took me a long ride afterwards. I called in home. Baby as usual cried for me. Found Juliet Croxall there, with a present for me, collar and cuffs. And worsted edging her own work for Lil's baby a petticoat. After leaving there took another ride, called at Coop, and got $4 of G. Born expecting Joseph's pictures to be done, but they'd not be till evening. My appetite's not been so good for a long time as tea was for supper. Sunday 3D. Some astounding revelations kept me awake most of the night. Have slept late though. Flawed and H. gone to Tabernacle. Read in my father's life, and after lunch went to stay the evening at Sister Dinwoody's while Hen and Flawed went to make a call. Mon 4th. Hen's 23 years old today. Flawed making preparations to celebrate it. Went up to market to get things purchased. A clock, a gift to Hen very nice. Invited Orson and Zine, George and Hent, Bud and wife, and George Piper, Hebe Wells, etc. to the party. Zine called afterwards. Is down to Teen Taylor's afternoon. Her little Emily and baby Helen Mar came with teens and Maggie Dusenbury little girls to see us. I washed the breakfast dishes and glasses after making bed and cleaned the silver. Flawed worked hard doing everything in one day, making it hard, but Flo's hired girl volunteered to make her a cake and helped till the whole thing was over. And Edith also assisted. Hen's father presented him with a cane, and others of his family made presents. Hentai told me that Lil's baby was very fretful and Lil taken cold. Tuesday 5th. Flawed cleaned everything and set the house to rights. I did a little towards dinner besides making my bed, etc. Astonished that she could do such a day's work after yesterday's. I mended the black lace on her dress and then got ready to return home. She was sad at hearing of my leaving, and so was I, but thought it best under the circumstances. She took me a ride before coming home, called at the gallery and got baby's pictures. The water we've been so long deprived of started running today. I learned from George that the pipe had been frozen. This is the reason of our having no water. Wednesday 6th. Took cold riding last evening. Mary Ellen gone home. Lil did her washing yesterday using a machine like Flawed's. Hent has it on trial. I commenced a letter to Jen after Lil retired. My cold settling on my lungs, coughing again. Had a call from Sister Peyton, told things that excited my sympathy for her. Learned last evening that Joseph had cut one tooth, been quite sick from it. Flawed and Juliet Croxall came and spent the afternoon. Flawed assisted me to set table, etc. Sent Clark to get some cakes. Thursday 7th. Fast day, cough worse. Finished a letter to Jen. Commenced last eve. Had another visit from Sister P. Lil and Babe over to Hutchison's. Did up 2 of baby's pictures. One to send his father, the other to Jen. Took quinine. And gave it to Lil 3 times. Friday 8th. Cloudy and windy, head aches. But cough better. Soul called. He's been sick. Also his wife with the same cold that's afflicting me and others. Flawed came to take me and the girls a ride. I dared not go out. Took care of baby, and Lil and Hent went. It's commenced raining. Received letters from Jen. Saturday 9th. I cleaned the doors, etc. in my room, and the kitchen. Lil scoured table, and cleaned the 2 other rooms. Has gone to Hutchison's by invitation. Sun 01th 10th. We took breakfast in the kitchen, the weather being too warm to cook in the front room. I made my fire before dressing. Lil taken the baby up to Sister Musser's. Mary Ellen spent a while with me before meeting. Soul here sleeping on the lounge was watching last night with one of his children. Had croup. Mon 11th. Had a slight thunderstorm. Flawed came in. It stayed a while. She and Hent played on my organ and sung a few songs last eve. Hent and George came in by my request and spent a while and sang. Hent playing on the organ first time for a great while. That we've enjoyed this pleasure. Tuesday 12th. Lil did some washing for Babe. Lonely day. Flawed took me and hence children a ride last evening was to a party up to bro. James' son-in-law to sister Horn President Woodruff, G, Q, Cannon, O, F, and Zine, and a house full of friends were there. When ready to start there was so tired could go no farther that LOLs went in and rested. And then crossed through the lot to the road where I met Dr. Barney going for Sister Zena Young took me in her buggy the rest of the way, and brought me home after 11 o'clock. Wednesday 13th, Cloudy had a visit from Sister P. Got a postal from Jen, she's 29 years old today. Did up papers and sent a package to her, and Mrs. Talbot Flawed called. Little Joseph's learned to say peek, boo, bratty, and taiji. Thursday 14th, rained, preventing my going to R.S. conference. Spent a quiet day, commenced an article for X. Lily washed a little for babe. Friday 15. A more easy day than usual. Lil took care of baby. Soul came and spent a while. I wrote a little more. Saturday 16th, blacked my parlor stove, could not clean my room, so done over. Flawed called a few minutes. We've had some more rain. Lil's babe growing fat and cuning every day as well as pretty. Sunday 17th. No one called but Mary Ellen. Quiet day. Mon 18th. Lil feeling miserable, growing thin, nursing baby, took pills last eve, her head relieved thereby. Tuesday 19th. Had a shower yesterday. Mary Kimball called yesterday, and this eve William's oldest son by Martha is dead. Lil's throat sore, and she feels sick, gave her pills. And some diphtheria medicine of George's. A letter came from old Mrs. Wiley, Rock Island. Wednesday 20. Lil's throat worse, sure it's Quincy. Made 2 fires, got our breakfast, and washed a lot of dishes, completely tired out before tidying my room. Hent invited me to dinner, and brought some to Lil, took a nap afterwards, and felt rested. Friday 22nd. Lil's throat and head bad, got a can of condensed milk for baby yesterday, he likes it. Sister P. called and finding Lil so sick stayed till Eve made a linseed poultice for Lil, and went to get elders to administer to her. Asked bro, McMurrin, but he was poisoned all over with ivy. Sent her for Joseph Kingsbury, he'd just gone. She met whom she thought a good brother, said she knew him to belong to the tabernacle choir, and asked him if he'd come with her and administer to a sick sister. He asked what ailed her, and was told that it was quinsy, when he said he'd rather not, as he had a family and didn't want to endanger them. He'll receive his reward. She went at eve and got bro Riser, who administered to her throat, very painful. Saturday 23 ND. I took baby to bed with me in the other room and got up 3 times last night and gave him warm milk when he went to sleep. The second time Lil wanted him and nursed him, after which I took him and he went right to sleep. He awoke a number of times and I'd turn him over when he'd go to sleep. This the second night that I've had little sleep. Lil's throat less painful and she can talk plainer, feels more comfortable from being more quiet than yesterday. Mary Ellen and Sister P. came, the former to stop a few days, the latter to wash a little for L and baby. Flawed called yesterday and brought Lil a lot of oranges and some cake this morning, and she insisted upon my riding with her. She called at Dr. Ship's, and I saw Orson come out of Savage's where he'd sat for his photo. I hailed him as he was going down the street, told him how sick Lil was, and he afterwards called and administered to her. He'd fasted, had preached the funeral sermon of E.V. Kimball, W.M. and Martha's son. I've had another weary day. Son. 24th, Joseph 11 months old. Lil's throat broke yesterday after Orson called. He called today on his way to meeting. Been a hard day for me, in pain from overwork and tending baby. 2 o'clock before my dress was choned, etc. And I went to bed without lunch, too tired to get it. Till after 4. Lil still poorly, no appetite and can't eat. Mon 25th. Took cold bathing and cough constantly, head aches, throat and lungs painful, but this is the first day of rest from work I've had since Lil's sickness commenced. A letter to Jen, doctored myself all day. Hent is worse that I am from a cold, but Lil improving. Tuesday 26th. We enjoyed a good night's sleep, my throat and lungs healed, and coughed only a little this morning. Hent real bad. Flawed came and took me. Little Helen and Bratty a ride. Finished letter to Jen, and got Clark to mail it. George about sick with this distemper, but will not stop work. Enjoyed my first day's rest since Lil's sickness. Mary Ellen doing most of the work. Wednesday 27th. washed and dressed hence baby. She spent the day in my room, George staying at the store to work. She got some oysters and Mary Ellen got dinner and hence for us all. Sister P. spent part of the forenoon here. I did a little sewing. Thursday 28th. Hent began feeling better about noon. I've bathed and dressed her baby. 2 days passed. Phoebe Kimball called and sat a while. I learned that Ed Kimball, Martha's son, died by his own hands. Took an overdose of morphine. I went to sew on Helen's machine and was taken with an awful deathly spell less than a month since I recovered from the last. Flawed came and took me, Lil, Mary Ellen, and Helen's children a ride around town. Friday 29th. Had a woman to wash, felt poorly, but no more faint spells. Dr. Barney came and invited me to ride, was better for it. Helen improving, but her baby worrisome. Saturday 30th. Sister Crowther came to see me. She's very feeble. I prepared lunch, and Helen joined us. It rained Thursday night, but the dust is frightful in the city. Point 16. Sunday 31st. Spent quietly. Soul called. I wrote some. Mary Ellen gone home to stay till Thursday. The day is mild and lovely. Mon. April 1st. Wrote and read. Brought on nervous headache. Tessie K. was over with her baby a while. Warm day. Tuesday 2nd. Did little but look over papers and do up some of the most interesting to send. East head ached and pleurisy on left side. Mary Ellen returned after our meeting. Wednesday 3D. My side worse in the night, felt sick all over and per appetite. Mary E. finished the ironing. Flawed came with double buggy and took me, Lil, Hent, and all the children out. Had little Reed Clausen too. Boot 8 in all. My head was worse for riding. And sides so bad I applied mustard plaster. Relieved it. Lil is sick too, stomachic out of order. Sister P. called, says her husband thinks of coming to conference. Mary E. was taken home by Flawed on our return. Thursday 4th. Flawed 22 years old today. She called this morning and again at eve. With Sister Dinwiddie, I've spent a sick day. Sick headache. Hent went to fast meeting, enjoyed it, though moved to speak. Didn't respond, and felt remorse in consequence. Friday 5th. My head better, but feel quite poorly. Hent got a letter from General. Mary Ellen came and cleaned the portico. Her friend Sister Carnes from the north came at eve, and her little girl to stop through conference. Flawed and Lou Barton called towards night. Hent got a letter from Jen. Saturday 6th. A hard day for me, cleaning my room, the doors and window kills, looking glass and polish the stove, etc. M.E. and Sister Carnes went to conference and returned at eve. Sunday 7th. Laura Pack, Austin her brother, and members of their family, and 2 or 3 brethren met in my room to pray for Helen Neely. Her daughter Mary was here also, and little child who was administered to. I invited them to administer to me after the day's meeting was over. Austin, Deck, Bro, Valentine, and 2 other brethren came at eve. 2 sons of my cousin Jeanette's came at eve. I invited them to stop all night. They tried, but in vain, to find lodging. I got Hent's girl Florence to prepare them a bed upstairs. Sister Carnes left this eve. Soul gave me a picture of Father. Mon 8th. Mary Ellen went home. Sister P. called again. Conference closed today. Wrote a letter to cousin Jeanette. Tuesday 9th. Flawed came and took myself, Lil, Hent, and the children up to the hot springs. We drank of it all, but Lil who refused. Afternoon. Flawed came for Hent to go to the grave. Mary Jane's Violet lost her babe born Sunday last. Sister Jane T. Simons, Sister Pitchforth, and Sister Lambert called and spent a while. I received a ticket from George to theater, daughter of the regiment. Hent went with me. George walked down with us and came for us at the close. Mary's water pipe burst by the southwest corner of my house. Wednesday 10th. Men from James dug down yesterday and mended the pipe. The water burst out again and filled the hole. Today they've dug up her hydrant and fixed that and found another place bursted below. Joseph Kimball called. Thursday 11th. Attended meeting of women's suffrage this afternoon. Quite a task to walk to the assembly hall. After the close met Orson at the door and Charlotte Kirby, who invited us to ride in her new B. Orson Road as far as City Hall, and then having business at D. News could go no farther. She took me up to view her new mansion during our ride and told me the peculiar way it had come into her hands with other experiences in years past. I got out at tea, Office got a few articles from the store, found Sister P. On my return home, wrote a few lines to Lucy W. K. To send by her to Logan, sent her a white scarf like mine for the neck and Joseph's picture. L. Decker had a rag behent went and flawed, and Zine little Emily came to see me. Friday 12. Zine called this morning. I gave her $11 in tea. Oh, orders for the 10 cash lent me by Orson towards paying my taxes last fall. She told me after going over there that she got nothing, everything being so dear. Received a letter from Jen dated April 6th. And 8. Did enough sewing to bring on headache. After my work was done, went over to Phoebe's, found Rachel Simmons there. Phoebe's having a kitchen put up. Called on Mrs. Hutchison, her sister, and some of her family on a visit from Denver. Insisted upon my taking tea with them dark before I came home. Saturday 13th. Gave my big room a cleaning, moving everything movable, sick with pain, and had to lay down before the chairs were quite dusted, so tired nearly felt discouraged. I had a death-like spell while laying down, and cough worse from walking on damp ground last night. Sunday 14th. Rained last night, but clear today. Christian and Amanda Kimball spent last evening here. Taken with those awful spells, had 4 within a few minutes after noon. Lil and I took dinner with George and Helen. Hen and Flawed called on their return from our ward meeting. Mon 15th was disheartened, those spells continuing, and more terrible through the night and morning. They let up and come on again towards eve, but in a lighter form. Tuesday 16th, feeling very poorly and still afflicted, Flawed came and took me, Lil, Helen, and children to Hot Springs. We drank and brought some home. Sister Horn called to see me afternoon. George brought me some port wine, $1 per gallon. Wrote a letter to R.T.P. and sent it by Helen to mail. Wednesday 17. Felt sicker and more reduced, no let up to those death-like spells. Felt better afternoon. Wrote to Jen knowing how she longs to hear from me and to try and forget my bad feelings. Enclosed a necktie with it. Thursday 18th. Another day of affliction, those deathly feelings coming oftener. The only cessation was during our morning ride with Flawed. Had one while stopping to Lady Grew Taylor. Her health's improving. We called at Bro Joshua's on the way there. Quite cold riding out. 24 bottles of lager beer brought me Monday. I paid for a ton of coal while out. It came afternoon. I dreamed of being with Horace and afterwards of being with Pa and Ma. Friday 19th. So sick the forenoon, there having been no cessation night nor day. Felt that death would be a sweet relief. How much longer have I got to suffer? Prayed for grace to endure what's needful to make me perfect. They began to let up afternoon, and I soon felt better and full of gratitude. Concluded to go to the recital at Tabernacle, and did so with Flora's assistance. Went through the east gate. The house was not crowded. Met Hen and Flawed coming out. She was up here this afternoon. Saturday 20th. Had rather a wakeful night caused by excitement last eve. Mary Ellen kindly came and cleaned my big room. Had a touch of gravel. Got 5 parcels of papers mailed by Flora. Taken cold in my neck and so down. Quite stiff. Sunday 21st. Retired last eve, at dusk being overcome by sleep. L and Babe retired with me. Commenced to wean him today, but gave it up. Lil feeling so badly over it. Bro Soul called, and then Orson Helen got them a lunch, and I took some. Enjoyed a short visit before they went to meeting. Called on Mrs. Hutchison. Mon 22nd. Did little but write. Felt rather poorly. Tuesday 23d. Florence spent part of the afternoon here, sent by Helen to get Lil and Babe some shoes. Wednesday 24th. Joseph 11 months old. Dreamed of praying, and as I prayed my faith became so powerful that I felt astonished, being so unusual, and in a moment the veil was removed, and right by me were 2 girls. One was grown, and the other small, sitting at her feet. The large one arose, and it seemed that she went to do something for me, but the next thing was a struggle with an evil power, and I awoke with nightmare. Took a ride afternoon with Flawed, suffering from affection of the bladder, troubled me since Saturday. Got a subscription from Dr. Ship and got it filled at Coop. Called at Exponent off. And left my article. Got Lil and Baby some shoes. Thursday 25th. Medicine helped me, but had sick headache from loss of sleep. Better after sleeping a while. My washing being done. Hent cleaning house. Got a postal from Mrs. Peyton. Friday 26th. Sick half the day from laying awake again, though I took bromide, took pills in the night which cleared my head. Called over to Hutchison's, he's left the mill, and don't know but they'll leave here. Went from there to Phoebe, she informed me that Vi Kimball has sold her house and part of her lot, and that bro up has bought the place he's living in by the graveyard. Vi is going to build on the upper half of her lot. Wish I could sell part of mine. Saturday 27th, swept my big room. And afternoon dusted, commenced a letter to Jen. Helen, receiving one from her today. Lil cleaned the safe, sink and steps and ironed. Sunday 27th, afternoon, wrote a little more to Jenny. Orson called to see if I'd go and stop with his children and hired girl while he and Zine go to Provo to spend a day or two. He is to deliver the oration on the 29th centennial celebration of Washington's inauguration. I read a description of the ceremonies a century ago, which affected me to tears a number of times, bringing to mind so forcefully those scenes, with what was suffered by our forefathers to gain the blessed boon which has been such a joy and source of happiness to celebrate throughout the length and breadth of our beloved country, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Fred and Lou Barton gave us a call. I took care of Helen's babe while she went a ride with George and children, was tired out before night. Mon 28th, very feeble on arising, had a coughing spell and palpitation, so I could hardly eat my breakfast of oatmeal and cup of coffee. I revived afterwards, though rather poorly all day. Lil's baby coughed quite hard in the night, and today put brown paper, soaked with oil and turpentine on his breast, and gave him oil and squills. Florence took me a little ride, and left me at Orson's about noon. He and Zine with Emily left on the 3 o'clock train. Tuesday 29th, Centennial Day, but a quiet one to me. The day is lovely after the little shower yesterday. I finished my letter to Jen and got raced to mail it last evening. The children gone with the hired girl, and I alone and somewhat lonely. Wednesday the 1st of May. And to me another lonely day. Children gone out again for the afternoon. I've read considerable in the news and Herald of the grand celebration in New York and Salt Lake, both yesterday and today, till my head is paining me. Thursday 2nd. Last night very windy. This is fast day, but I never thought of it till too late for meeting Orson and Zine came on the morning train. He went a fast meeting. I nearly made a pillowcase, and afternoon made 3 calls, first on Mrs. Waring and her daughter Mrs. Van Dyke, another daughter being there. We went to her house next door, and she played some on her piano. Then I went into Sister Young's, Uncle Joseph's first wife, and spent a while. Orson came to dress for a party held at the schoolhouse. Flawed came to bring me home, very grateful as I was so anxious to come. Found that Lil's baby had been sick and worried her out. He's better, and so tickled to see me he hardly knew how to act. Friday 3D. Helen, Lil, myself, and all the children went to Flawed. She came for us. Alice Calder and Lyle Clark were there. George and Will came down to dinner. While at table I had a deathly spell, felt so sick before going, tried to get Flawed to excuse me, but she refused, laid down and felt better. Afternoon. Sat forth, windy and dusty, cleaned my room, and took care of Brady and Genevieve for Helen to go to matinee. Orson called with Joe Jennings and told me he'd engaged Joe to sell my place, and he'd sold it to Bro Pierce for $6,000, the price he thought I'd set of it, but I told him I meant that I was to reserve part for myself and sell the biggest for $6,000, but I told him I must think about it and make some inquiries, as that was too little, and I'd no idea where I'd go, etc. I made inquiries concerning it, and everyone tells me it's worth more, and believe I can get $10,000. Called on Mrs. Hutchison near night, got letter from Jen. Sunday 5th. Another windy day with no rain. Slept poorly and had sick headache, for it took pills, helped me. Commenced a letter to Jen towards night. Mon 6th. Finished and mailed my letter to General. The rain came down last night till the earth looked as if we'd had a freshet. Hailed, rained, and snowed, and sun shone out at intervals all day. Tuesday 7th. Head ached all day. Received a doleful letter from Brother Charlie dated Helena, Montana, May 3d, and answered it as he thinks me indifferent to him because of my not writing him till he did me. Wednesday 8th. Had sick headache till near night. Pills operated and relieved me. Am mind sick from this monotony. Mary W. and I went to see Booth and Barrett, whom I never saw before. Mary Whitney had been promised a place in President Woodruff's box by Dolph and gave it up to me. She and Lute sat in front, Bud sending tickets. After we got there, I'd given $1 to go in the second circle where Deck, L and others when I not able to, but she didn't use it and gave it back. She was kind enough to offer me her chance in the box and stay at home, as she had seen these stars when here before, but I refused to take it unless she'd accept my offer. Could not see more than half of the stage, being so far back, but had the privilege of seeing the great booth and barrette without costing me anything, and enjoyed the music. Mary sorry that she didn't know how it was, and Lute said she'd as soon not taken my place and given me hers. Thursday 9th. Felt better than I have this week. Going out helped me, but found the baby sick when I got home last eve, burning fever and restless. Bathed him in soda water, gave sweet oil last night and today. Also Paragoric went this forenoon and paid $12.50 tithing in orders, and 2 dozen fresh eggs went to News Off and asked Bro Nicholson for blank book, and he gave me 4 nice large ones. Went into the tithing store and got a bottle of ink and 2 of cough syrup and pair of gloves, and having such a load let the latter, which were done up together, fall as I got to Mary's gate, and broke and spilled all the syrup, but a few spoonfuls in one bottle. The ink was mostly saved, but my gloves were soaked and my dress skirt in front. I felt as though I could not stand up before I got halfway home, but had to go to work cleaning my things, and the carpets where the syrup had drizzled. Flawed came and spent the afternoon. At night gave baby foot bath, etc. 2 dozen bottles of beer brought me from City Brewery. Weather still rainy, and some frost night. Friday 10th. Baby very sick. Helen went to Rachel Simmons and got some pills, did up some papers to send east. Saturday 11th. Baby better, but wearing upon us being so cross and restless. Yesterday and today I felt sick for sleep. Flawed came this morning to take me out. We called at City Hall to give Orson my script to pay water tax, talked with him about selling my place, retaining the East End instead of the West. Lil rode a little after I returned, both of us worn down. Sunday 12th. I attended the funeral of Heberwell's son. At eve. Got George to take me to the chapel, and walked home, found Lil worn out tending baby. Mon 13th. Drawed 2 or 3 plans for my new house. Tuesday 14th. Slept poorly and feel its effects. Had a call sister from Santaquin. She wanted one of my first pamphlets to send away with the second. Let her have one for the old price, 10 CTS. Have only 3 left. Wednesday 15th. Flawed called towards night, talked over the selling of my house. Thinks I ought to get $5,500 for this part of my place. We've had some heavy thunderclaps and rain today and rain last night. Thursday 16th. Flawed called this morning and took Helen to dressmakers. Called on Orson and told him we'd decided upon the price, $5,500 for my place. He said he'd look out for someone to purchase. Mary Ellen called on us. Friday 17th. Lil washed for Babe. I did some darning for him. Saturday 18th. Was invited to go to matinee by Mary W. Was very tired before going, and the walk hard for me. Austin was my escort. Flawed was there and came nearly home with me. Was so tired, felt sick and retired early. Sunday 19th. Not very well and L feels similar. Soul called, told me some interesting news of the Indians west of here being visited by Jesus, and had it written by a half-breed missionary, Mormon, to President Woodruff. I called on Mrs. Hutchison towards night. George took me up to evening meeting. We were addressed by Delegate Kane. Was very tired, walked home with Helen. So used up, and L, 2 tending baby, that we retired early. Mon 20th. Felt very poorly, had headache, received a letter from Jenny, and a collar of her own knitting with it. Tuesday 21st. Was sick when I went to bed, and couldn't lay hardly, was tired and nervous half the night, and L, worn out tending baby, etc. I felt very sick when rising, better after breakfasting and laying down. Took physic last night and night before. Went over to Mr. Hutchison's to get a jug of microbe killer, which he offered me price $300, $100 for freight, as he expects to go to Cal, where he sent to get this. According to the testimonials, it has accomplished more wonderful cures than have ever been made by any doctor in the world, and like a drowning person I grasp at a straw. Towards night went up to Vikay's, first time since last fall. Wednesday 22nd. Helen and I were ready to go to Coop to the cheap sale, when Flawed came with buggy, took us down, and I got her to purchase a few things, a dress, hat and ribbon for Lil, also a dress for me, and other little articles. She took us a ride up the can. I called at Hutchison's and at P. Kimball's afternoon near morning I dreamed of being in a company where Joseph Smith and Emma where Joseph looked very nice, had on a black beaver hat. I dreamed of him and other brethren administering to Lily. In the midst of it he turned to me as I stood behind him and said something like this. Nobody has ever understood her case, meaning that no one had known her Alesh or what they should do for her. He emphasized with his hand as well as his voice, and then resumed his prayer and blessed her. There was a fine coach and horses waiting for him. Emma came to me and told me of someone offering her some pecuniary assistance and smiled as she told it, and that she had an abundance. She told me that she owned the place whereof Kimball now lives, and that I might have it to live in. I expressed my gratefulness, saying that I could now rent my own house, but I thought that house was as it was when father owned it, having but 1 or 2 rooms. Thursday, 23d. There's a case of smallpox among some tramps from Denver who stole a ride on the train, and the city hall is quarantined with Sol Kimball and others who were there, and 1 dog. Did some sewing, spent a while in Mary Kimball's. Friday, 24th, little Joseph's birthday, 1-year-old. I am not so well. Flawed called Mary WHY started this morning to see her sister Helen near Brigham City, who has been suffering a long time. I went to Mrs. Hutchison's and paid $4 for the jug of microbe killer, $1 for freight. Mr. Hall of Valley House called, was taking M.E. Kimball a ride, said he and wife were going to call on me, and that they'd take me out with them in their new carriage. Flawed and Edith Dinwiddie called towards evening. Saturday, 25th. Laid awake 2 hours or more. I partly swept my big room, moving everything, and my back pained me so. As usual, Helen took pity on me and finished obliged to lay down. Had one of my old deathly spells, only 4 weeks since I was so sick from them towards night. Did a little darning for Hent I.E.B. Wells called to see me about my article for Exponent. She told me there was no danger of land going up as Zane was appointed judge over us. 28. Sunday, 26th. Had those spells all night, and most of today. They were lighter than usual, but bad enough to take my appetite and prostrate me. Fred and Lou Barton called to see us. Mon 27th. Had no more bad spells till afternoon. Had 3 light ones. L quite sick with headache. Received a postal from Bro. P. in Logan. Teacher of R. S. called, and I gave her 50 CTS on tithing office. Tuesday, 28th. Got up and prepared breakfast. Lil being poorly had none of those bad spells. Hope the microbe killer is helping me. George ordered 2 dozen bottles of beer. Just come, he will take half. Lil's baby got sore mouth, been sick 2 days. I went to Exoff, got papers, and went into T.O. store, got jar pickles and 3 spools of twists. Sat on the front lawn the forenoon tending Joseph. Thursday, 30. Decoration Helen and Lol took lots of my lovely roses, which the bushes are loaded with, to make bouquets to put on the graves. George went this morning with Helen and are out again riding. There's no one home but Lil baby and me. Orson called as he was passing with Bro. Stainer. Baby much better. Tuesday night I dreamed that Jen and Ed came home. I heard her voice in the other room and threw my papers aside, ran and caught her in my arms as she and one of the girls were embracing. Then sat down and took Ed's hand. He was on the lounge, and told him how glad I was that they'd come, and asked if they'd come to stay, which they assured me they had. Thought she looked healthy and plump. Gathered some roses and took to Mrs. Hutchison towards Eve. She gave me a pail of germade, they not liking it and hating to throw it away. Had the first conversation with them on religion. Friday, 31st. Flawed came and took me and baby to the cemetery, took some flowers and placed upon Pa and Charlie's graves, visited our private graveyard, and also spread roses on Violet's and Phoebe's graves, and put 2 bouquets on Pa's and Ma's tomb. None had been placed there. Lil took a ride after our return. I began a letter to Jen. Helen received one from her this morning. Saturday, June 1st. My dear mother's and Bro Heber's birthday, also President Young's. Little Helen had an awful fall, disfiguring her face frightfully. Did some sewing and darning, head aches from it, yes, and finished a letter commenced yesterday to General. We are abounding in strawberries. Sunday, 2nd. My Violet's birthday would been 35 years old. Dreamed of having an awful struggle with a man who had me in a house in his power, but I screamed and was heard outside and got away from him. Helen and George attended the conference of Y.M.A. This afternoon. I attended this evening. George took me in his buggy. Mon 3D. Got up and made pancakes for breakfast. Lil wishing to lay a while feeling dragged out with her baby. Wednesday 5th. Had a ride with Flawed this morning. Called at Orson's. They're moved back into their own house. He at home not feeling well. After my return, Lil had a ride with Flawed. The flood and fire that swept away Johnstown, Penn, and brought suffering and desolation affects every heart, and the end is not yet. Wrote to Cousin Libby. Thursday 6th. Fast day, warmest day we've had. Friday 7th. Lil washed for baby. Flawed called, is going to Cal next week. Sister P went to Logan this morning. Saturday 8th. Weather cooler. I received a letter from Jenny. Ed sick, just as he'd found employment, is in debt too. Sunday 9th. Had a call from John Fursgreen. Thinks he's God's chosen one to lead the saints. He's preaching the resurrection. He says soul called while he was here. Flawed and Hen spent a while. Also Mary Ellen Kimball wrote to Mr. Beard in Indiana. Mon 10th. Quite cold last night, and this morning Flawed took me a ride. I went home with her to dinner, laid down, and took another ride before returning home. She took Lil a short ride. I felt sick from sleeping too little last night. Tuesday 11th. Took more cold from riding in the cold wind, and cough worse, laid awake again. At Eve, Mary W. offered me a ticket to the grand concert given in Tabernacle for the benefit of the distressed in Pa, and W.T. enjoyed it very much. Wednesday 12th. Flawed came and took me, Lil and baby, Helen, and Hattie a ride. Lil ironed after dinner. I commenced a letter to Jen. Thursday 13th. Hottest day we've had. Finished letter to Jen. Friday 14th. Laid awake and feel sick, though I slept a little after Lil was up. Did a little work, looked through papers, and mailed some yesterday. I was introduced to Bro Eli Pierce by Mary W. He boards there when in town. Saturday 15th. 3 or 4 wakeful hours obliged me to lay to get some sleep this morning. Feel worse than yesterday. In the midst of cleaning my big room. Flawed came to take me a ride, left the dusting till my return. Took little Bratty and Joseph strawberries. About gone. Paid $35 today for 2 boxes. Wind and dust blew up, but no rain. Flawed came afternoon and took Helen, Hattie, and Mary Decker a ride, gave each a nickel. She gave me $1.50 to get berries, she said. Sunday 16th. Had my room to dust. Flawed and Hen called, also Bro Soul. Flawed starts in the morning for Cal. Afternoon tried to sleep, having laid awake again, and took chloroform towards morning, and went to sleep. Took it again without sleeping for noise. Commenced weaning Joseph today. Never saw so good a baby. I tell his mother she's the one that's being weaned. Mon 17th. Took bromide, but not affecting me. Took chloroform, sicker to pay for it. Baby good, but drank milk. God of waterfalls, and has a fever this eve and bowels bad. Put a bandage round his body, wet in cold water. Had a call from Quince Kimball, David's boy from Logan. Talked much of Charlie, whom he said all the young folks looked up to, being the leading spirit and full of wit and humor. Tuesday 18th. Another sick day. Appetite left me, and suffering from indigestion and taking care of baby. Nights ravenous hunger attending this disease. Lil sick came round today and hent very bad with sore throat and chills. Little Helen and Bratty sick and vomiting in the night. Wednesday 19th. Had the washwoman sicker than ever. Distress instamesh from indigestion and physicked with cornmeal gruel, which I've depended on Lil doing up the work and getting dinner. Cooked a variety of vegetables, and I ate peas mostly, which relished, but had to eat twice after the pain could not be relieved with anything else. Hent gave me some pickled or spiced trout, and I ate it with bread like a hungry dog. Could compare it to nothing else. Have got lime water, which relieved me some. While at dinner, Dr. Barney called to invite me to ride, but could not forego dinner after suffering for 2 hours for the want of it. I've had the baby to take care of, but he's as good as an angel and goes to sleep without any fuss. Thursday 20th. Slept good till taking babe near daybreak, and he's not fretted for his mother since. Received a letter from Jen. Ed's well and gone to work again. Sorry not to be able to go to our meeting in 14th Ward. Got all ready, but had to give up and lay down. Commenced to answer Jen's letter. Laid baby in my bed at Eve, and he went to sleep. Hutchison's gone to Cal. She came to bid us goodbye and wept. Friday 21st. Baby taken worse in his bowels last night, and I had a grand time in undress towards morning. Had to change his clothes, and took him and mother into my bed. Felt worse for it this morn, but had bed and bedding to wash. Ironed And did the other work his being feverish and fretful tired me more than work. We had a grand tableau this afternoon, baby crying for the breast fought and struggled. And nothing could stop him, put soda on the nipple and he never winced, but took it then added more. But made no difference. I caught the campfire and put some on. This made him let up. I took him and he cried and fought till finally fell asleep. Poor little soul, hasn't whimpered for it since, and went to bed alone. And fell asleep. Tried to write to Jen, but in vain. Yesterday George got a case of strawberries. I had 2 boxes. But my desire for them has left me. I prefer pickled or spiced trout, and left the rest of the berries for Lil. Saturday 22nd, baby good till near 4 this morning when he kicked and cried. I took him into my bed with Elle's free consent, gave him more milk. And he laid still and went to sleep. Had to hold him considerable today. When awake wrote more to Jen when he was asleep. Dan Davis called, brought me some black cherries, and said he'd bring me 2 pounds of butter next week. Belle Bourne was here and I've engaged her to make Lil's, and my dress is windy, and we had a few drops of rain too good to last. Sunday 23d. Had a visit from Seoul, and soon after Orson called to take dinner with me. He said I was just getting mine, and glad of his company. Baby been awful fretful today. Zula Kimball called after meeting. Finished my letter to Jenny. Mon 24th. Dreamed that I was to be married to Bro. Thought his abode for the present was in the cellar under his house, though his wife and I appeared at liberty. He had to stay below for safety. Lil washed for Babe, and I had to nurse him. Another hard day. He seems more reduced than yesterday. Prepared him some graham broth. Don't like it without milk, so I mixed it. His appetite failing. Worries me. Joseph Kimball called, and Sister Eleanor S. teacher visited me. Tuesday 25th. Baby better. Mary Ellen K. called. E.B. Wells called at bed. Time to see if I'd go in the morning to Granger to R.S. conference. Told her I'd go. Lil went to concert. Nigger minstrels. I was kept awake till after 12 with baby. Wednesday 26th. Arose after 6 o'clock. Made shortcake, and a failure. It was Flo. Got a GL of strawberries at tea. Office started for Granger about 9. Sister B. Smith went with me. A number of sisters came to Y. L's conference. Afternoon. Had a good time. I spoke forenoon and afternoon with freedom. My remarks were referred to by 2 or 3. Sister Erdley apologized in the midst of her remarks for referring to them so many times. The sisters set their picnic in the center of the room, a new meeting house, laying boards on the seats, covering them with cloths, everything being good and in style. BPMC Ray there at both meetings, and 2 other brethren. Afternoon. He opened and closed meeting, and also spoke twice, referred to things I'd said upon the word of wisdom. Thursday 27th. Received a letter from Jen's sister Leitner. Here stops all night. We walked to see father's pictures at Johnson's drugstore. Found it gone to Savage's. Called there, but they were boxed to send to the Manti. And Logan Temple's disappointed. Got 2 PDS good butter and some nut cakes at T.O. Thankful as I'm without cash, and none due me till the 15th of next month. Oh, Belle Bourne $2.50 for making 2 dresses. Friday 28th. Had the washwoman to clean the dining room and hall and closet. I tacked the carpet and did so much else. Was completely overdone. Sister Leitner went to see E. Partridge Young. Saturday 29th. Got cleaned and straightened, and big room cleaned through a long and hard effort. Suffering from piles the same as yesterday and nearly every day. Sister Leitner left for Beaver this afternoon. Sun 30th. Grateful for a day of rest. This is the hottest of the season. Sol paid me a short visit. Also David's son Quince. A most dreadful hot day. Mon. July 1st. This forenoon Sister Dinwiddie called to invite me to ride at evening. Glad to accept, as we are to give Orson a surprise, this being his 34th natal day. I took advantage of the chance to go and invite Sol, and wife took Lil's baby riding and was left at Orson's after 8. He was perfectly surprised, and we had a good time. Cake was provided by the women and ice cream by the men. It was got up so suddenly Sunday eve that Dolph missed being invited. Hebe and Rule Wells, and the latter's wife, were all that were invited outside the family relations. Zine made a present of a beautiful guitar. I remained all night. George carried baby home for Lil, and Hent carried her baby. Heavy wind blew. Thursday the 4th. Walked from Orson's this morning. Found the house locked. The family gone to view the procession. Mary W. and all of hers going. I went, though I'd rather stopped at home. We walked below post off. and upstairs out onto a veranda where Mary'd been invited by one of her boarders whose office was up there. The sight was fine, but there was little to see compared with a year ago walked home standing it well till nearly here frightful hot day. Had an enjoyable time up to Orson's and Zine stopped there to attend fast day on Wednesday, made little Helen mar a dress for her doll and arms for it, and fixed Emily's doll Tuesday, and commenced a letter to Jen, but too sleepy to write went upstairs to sleep but failed, though felt better for the rest. Attended fast meeting yesterday and spoke, fasted, and prayed for certain blessings. At evening was blessed with the privilege of going with Orson and Zine to the house of the man whom I dreamed of being married to the night of the 24th, had a pleasant time. Stayed another night at Orson's to escape the noise of firecrackers, the firing of guns, and bombs prevented my sleeping a while, and again this morning, but as I got extra sleep yesterday morning made up for what I'd lost and prepared me for the coming 4th. I enjoyed my out Orson treat us to a little music on his guitar a few times. Friday 5th. Awful hot weather, finished a letter to Jen, and wrote to Flawed, and soul calling got him to mail them. He gave me another picture of Father Joseph real pearly. Saturday 6th. Exchanged work with Helen, made petcoat for her baby, and she cleaned my big room, my flesh sore from walking the 4th till I can hardly get up and down. Received papers from Mr. Bearden. One is a notice of my letter, or the compliment I paid his son, the local editor, though my name's not given. Joseph growing worse. Sunday 7th. Baby had a dreadful night vomiting and kept me up most of the night. Sent for Orson, who came also. Bid young and administered to him. Was better afternoon. Was persuaded to send for our Simmons, did so hoping that she'd stop all night. Had an engagement and couldn't fix medicine, but he grew worse, vomiting nearly every time he drank anything. Mon 8th. Spent another night up and down with baby and sick for want of sleep. Sent for Sister Rachel. She tried rhubarb in broken doses as baby continued vomiting last night and today, and discarded the other. The symptoms are cholera infantum. Hent received a letter from Jen, and I one from Flawed. Hent will set up tonight. Sister Piper came and anointed baby all over and prayed for him this morning. Another hard day. I took cold being up so many times last night. Coughed terribly. Tuesday 9th. Cough kept me awake so much, feel sick from it, and lungs painful. Wet cloth helped it. Hentai and Lil took care of Joseph. The rhubarb operated, but fever took him. Afternoon. Hent gone to Farmington with her baby to spend the night. Made me consent to George getting Dr. White to lance Joseph's teeth, and to do something for him. They having so much faith in him, especially with children. I've no doubt of it, but hate to employ DRs outside of our church, I told her. He came this eve and gave medicine and advice, told me not to put but 1 teaspoonful of lime water in baby's milk when our told me to put more than 1 tablespoonful in a bowl of it. He said it would eat their insides. Looks reasonable, and I'm thankful he came. Wednesday 10th. Last night baby's worst. I didn't go to bed, gave his medicine every half hour. His fever high. Lily cries much of the time. George saw the DR about baby. He said he expected the fever and to keep on giving medicine as directed. I sent for Orson this morn. He came with Bid young and administered to babe, and with soul at eve. On leaving he met Bro Patterson and told him of my worn out condition, Lily's feelings, and sick baby, asking him to come. He came and administered to us. Afterwards Bro Austin Brown called and he administered to babe by my request. His fever began to abate after and Bid administration, though she was sick last night. Mary offered to sit up with babe for me to sleep. Thursday 11th. Baby being without fever is low, but looks better than yesterday. Has a slight cold, slept most of the day, and fever came on near night. Orson, Bro Arthur Stainer and Bid young came and administered to him this morn, and soul at eve. Austin went for a can of malted milk for shake. He thought it superior to the condensed, but babe likes the latter best. Phoebe offered to sit up tonight. I commenced having deathly spells yesterday, terrible all night, and continuing to my distress at this period. Mary Ellen came today, Friday 12th. I got up about 4 o'clock, baby so distressed and sick at his stomach. After giving him a few spoonfuls of crust coffee 3 or 4 times, went to sleep. Orson administered to him morning and eve. Zine and a number were here afternoon. Awful hot day towards night. Took baby out on the lawn. He looked pleased at having his bonnet on for all he was in such distress. With only a moment's relief, we gave his medicine every hour which the doctor left Thursday, but without any noticeable effect. Nothing but faith helped him. Bro John Nicholson going by, I hailed him to ask him to administer to Joseph, but he was going to meet his prayer circle and requested his name. I gave it him. Ella offered to take care of him. Through the night, and being exhausted, I retired with Lily, leaving him in charge of Mary Ellen, though I'd preferred to watch him myself. Saturday 13th. When I saw baby and heard the rattle on his lungs, I'd no hope, and sank in submission to the inevitable, reproaching myself for his failing so that I'd taken him outdoor or given him into anyone's charge. As I thought he'd taken more cold, I took him as soon as possible and held him till his pure spirit passed away 5 minutes to 1 o'clock. I forgot Dan Davis Kimball calling this morning to bring me some butter. I asked him to administer to baby, and when he set eyes on him, he said, "I feel about this child as father did when he and a brother were administering to one of his." And he stopped this brother, just as he was about to pronounce life, etc., and told him not to but pray for his release. I told Dan that it was Lucy Kimball's babe, which he'd said he didn't remember. Oh, how I constantly prayed for it to live if it was Father's will for Lily's sake, who's never thought that he could die. After Orson administered to him in the morning, he grew easier, and was still more easy after Dan's administration, both praying that it might be as Father willed. We knew that nothing could help him but his power. The little one took everything, being so thirsty, and consecrated oil, which he always loved, I gave him very freely as a nourishment, and to heal him his mouth inside had been covered with a white coating, and got Mary E. to steep some golden seal, sage, and raspberry leaves. I took soft rags and washed it all off, and they were bloody, showing it was raw. George got something of the DR for it. He left the store and spent the afternoon getting things and preparing for the funeral Sunday, notifying family and friends, etc., etc. Poor Lily, when she saw the baby going, rushed into Henty's and would not enter the room again. Phoebe came in the morning and 2 or 3 times after to do what she could. She washed and laid baby out, went and bought him some shoes, quilted satin, the loveliest things I ever saw, and lace to put on the bottom of his dress, the one given him by Flawed on his birthday, and a nice shirt. Hen tidied up his dress and petticoat, the latter she gave him when his clothes were shortened. Neither had been washed, but once when he'd breathed his last, I tied up his chin and gave him to Phoebe. He's beautiful in death, I felt sinking, and was grateful for a ride given me by Sister Dinwiddie, who came without knowing that Joseph was sick. George telegraphed to P. twice, the first time in vain, as I forgot to mention the Equitable Cooperative Institution to which he belongs. Zine spent the afternoon here with her little girls. Everyone were so kind. Orson brought me a bottle of ginger ale yesterday, and Sol brought me some French wine the day before. M. Wells called towards evening. Sunday the 14th, Lily went home with Zine, and Mary Ellen with her to stop the night asked me to go, but I preferred to stay home and M.E. to go in my place. They returned in the morning, L heartbroken, and wished that the Lord would take her too. I was able to calm her, and everyone did all they could towards it. This event has changed all my plans. Feel that there's nothing now to stimulate me to have a home, and shall not think of it hence, says L. Can live with her, and I'll be ready to do what Father wills I should. A beautiful white coffin held the little lamb, and all pronounced him beautiful. The hour for the funeral was 4 o'clock, and there was quite a gathering of kindred and a few who are not. Bro. Charles and Arthur Stainer were the speakers. Then Orson added to their comforting words and gave a powerful testimony. The singing led by Bud was heavenly, and numbers testified of the heavenly spirit that rested here and upon the speakers. The meeting was opened by Andrew Kimball and closed by Bro Dan. Mamie Lyons brought a lovely wreath. George Bourne presented one. Sister Dinwiddie sent another, and someone also a lovely bouquet. Phoebe brought a little flower and placed it in the right side of baby's breast. Lily kept more calm than we'd expected, even through the trying scene of parting with my little darling. She called him, "Must you leave me?" etc., etc. So pitiful, touching every tender heart. On the cover of the coffin, engraven on steel, was "Holiness to the Lord and our loved one." The coffin was white. It was placed in the hack between Lily and me, and Orson and Zine buried by Pa, and the 2 wreaths placed on the grave on our return, being urged by O. and Z. We stopped the night. I went to hear the address given in the chapel by Bro Nicholson, enjoyed it. Mon 15th, Lily slept good, when awake would moan and sigh, and I'd pray when she'd drop to sleep. She was worn out after dinner. She felt she must go home, but I stayed till eve, the rain and windstorm preventing me. I helped Zine hem 2 sheets and turned the hems to 9 large diapers. Orson goes northward, and I bid him goodbye as I met him coming home. Those deathly spells have come more frequent since yesterday and increasing. Lily will stop at Hence, and I board there. Tuesday 16th. I feel pretty poorly. No let up to those spells. Sister East from AZ, and Mother Higby came to see me and bless me, and Lily before leaving. Wednesday 17th. More sick this morn, slept poorly. Wind distressed me from going without eating. Appetite gone. Was also serenaded by a cat harmonica latter part of the night. Soul called on me. Lily gone down street with Flora. Got parcels of news done up to send away. Thursday 18th. Had a sick night and not able to get out of bed all day. Threw up part of my breakfast and also supper the previous night. Took pills, slept most of the day. Flawed and Hen came home at eve and were here after 9 o'clock. They met in the office at Ogden, unexpectedly. Hen from the east and Flawed from the west. Friday 19th. Some better, though greatly distressed from wind and bowels, and sore from it. Received a postal from Sister P. Yesterday. A box containing 2 jugs of microbe killer came yesterday. Sent one by Flawed from San Francisco. 1 jug cracked. She called at eve, bringing some gifts, a pair of slippers, crumb brush, and pan to me. An embroidered apron and sash to Lil, a dozen Jeff and butter plates to Hent, and Orson and Zine each a pair of cuff buttons of the latest style made by the Chinese. She's suffering from a cold. Taken on the car, leaving the window open at night, the heat being unbearable. Jean Kimball from Bear Lake called. Saturday 20th. Felt worse this morn. My bowels running last eve and this morn, till I couldn't sit up. Had my breakfast in bed, but am relieved of the soreness through my bowels. Quite a change in weather. Very cool last night. Tried to write to Jenny. Sunday 21st. Zine called yesterday. Said Race was sick. Thought it caused by the heat. Wanted to know how I was as she was writing to Orson. Came down today with children. Race better, but worse at eve. George took him home. Continuing to be gripped. Took a dose of cholera mixture. Made me stupid, but put a stop to the pain. Mon 22nd. Much improved in health. Finish letter to Jen begun. Sat. Flawed came and took Lil a ride. Then me bought me some raspberries and tomatoes. Lily sad and weeping in Henty's bedroom. I gave a word of comfort and she rose above it. She appreciates a little word of consolation, and how much would she prize the blessing of a companion, and not even a word has he written her in this her greatest sorrow. Tuesday 23d. Clouded and showered a little, and thundered once. We've been threatened for days, all for nothing. Everything dying for water. I looked over the clean clothes, sprinkled some to iron, and put away all of Joseph's so Lily wouldn't see them. Oh, the feelings it gives me to see and handle them, and even to go into the kitchen then think of her poor soul. Sad. Oh, how sad I feel, and long to embrace and fondle him in my bosom, and see his little cunning ways, so lovely and endearing. Worked afternoon altering a basque, and tired completely out. Wednesday 24th. Pioneer Day, a day of all days to be remembered. Before 5 o'clock I awoke, and not able to sleep more, arose and dressed before anyone else was stirring. Flawed and Hen came up, and George and Helen with baby went up to camp on City Creek. Mary invited me, Lil, and Flora with children to dinner. L. Received some lines from Sister P. composed on little Joseph. Thursday 25, Horace's 66th natal day. 42 years ago today, he entered this valley sick with mountain fever, which kept him back. Moved books and papers, etc., from his secretary, looked over, and destroyed some old orders, accounts, etc. Found one telling the year that this west wing was built to my house 1870, and in February 1872 I had lung fever, and came near dying the 11th of April after he bought my spring bed. George moved secretary into my bedroom, and I put back most of the books. A hard day. Mail brought a letter from Jen, and some verses from Mrs. P. to Lil. Friday 26th. Another hard day. Had our washwoman to take up carpet, and clean the parlor, and kitchen, and I cleaned pictures, and furniture, etc. till work down. Saturday 27th. I patched and put down the carpet. Was laid up for 2 or 3 hours, but afternoon went to work again. Helen helped me today put things back and set my rooms to rights, etc. Received a postal from Sister Peyton. Sunday 28th, Soul called gave me a picture of his baby Flawed called towards Eve. George took a ride with his family. I was so tired out, had to lounge most of the day. Mon 29th, got Faye to go to News Off and buy me a sign room to rent. Finished putting books, etc., into the secretary. And sorting and throwing out old papers, orders, bills, etc., etc. Tuesday 30th. The hottest day we've had, washed old kitchen carpet and did a few other things and watered the lawn half an hour as usual after Mary was through. Wednesday 31st. So week on rising, couldn't stand up to dress. Felt better after breakfast, starched and put out curtains on the lawn to dry, laid down a few minutes, cough got me up as usual by Eve, had 3 pairs of curtain ironed and 2 of them on cornice, Hent put them up for me. Lily went somewhere yesterday and still absent. Thursday, August 1st, sultry latter part of last night, this is fast day. Hent gone to meeting. Soon after Flawed came for us all to go home with her, sent her devised to find Lil not being there, went to Orson's, found she'd been there and was at fast meeting, called and notified Hent. I returned home and took her children and Flo to Flawed's, then she went for the girls. Lil felt dreadfully to be without her baby. I suffered severely from piles over half the day. Friday 2nd. Patched kitchen carpet and put it partly down and did some more cleaning. Had to rest frequently in the midst of it. Saturday 3D. Lil and I cleaned kitchen after hiring washwomen to do it. She scoured back porch and platform and made the work show. I was obliged to lay down 2 or 3 hours in middle of the day, then at it again. Sunday 4th, swept middle room and dusted it, was intending going to meeting but too tired, and offered to take care of Hent's children so she could go with L. A noted Negro woman sang, "The Lord is my light." 3 years ago today, Charlie died from accidentally shooting himself. Flawed and Hen here in the evening. Flawed read some of Charlie's diary written on leaving home for St. David, then played and sang some of his pieces till I could fancy we were again living together as we were 2 or 3 years ago. Mon 5th. Did a little work and tired out as usual. This is election day, and saloons closed till 9 o'clock. Lily gone out to try and get above her sorrowing weather, cooler rain in the mountains the cause. Tuesday 6th. Had a lovely night for sleep, but it seemed as though Hade had sent out an army of demons from the sounds which defy all description, and filled me with wonder as at the hour of the news coming out the people were ahead of the Liberals. But this morning we learned that the latter beat. It gave me a feeling of satisfaction that all is as the Lord wills, and that the day of his power when he'll lay bare his arm in our defense is being hastened thereby. I was invited yesterday by Dr. Barney to a surprise on Dr. Pratt next Thursday, a picnic and a present to be provided. I declined going as I'd no money, though she insisted upon my doing so and no one need know, but I refused, telling her I had pride if I hadn't money, and I think if they want to make picnics and surprises, they'd better make them on the poor instead of on the well-to-do who draw from them their lives' blood. Commenced a letter to Jen. Wednesday 7th. Cooler weather and cloudy. George sent my stuff for window blinds, and I made 2 and put them up. Dr. Barney called and insisted upon my attending Dr. Pratt's birthday surprise. She's 50 years old, but I declined. Forgot to mention Flawed's taking me, Lil, Hent, and her children a morning ride. Helen and children got out, and Flawed took Zine and hers a ride with us. Thursday 8th. Had a little thunder and rain today. Worked buttonholes and put buttons on Helen's dress. Received a letter from Jen yesterday, wrote her a little this afternoon. Dr. Barney sent to know if I'd go in her buggy to Dr. Pratt's. I sent word that I could not, thanking her for her kind offer. Friday 9th. Finished and mailed letter to Jen, did little else. Saturday 10th. Made and put up 2 window blinds and 1 for the door and see. George and family went up City Creek this evening. Lil to Orson's, and I keep the house with Tige. There is every sign of rain. A cloud burst in Bingham this afternoon. Mary Kay said she saw it was a grand sight. Sunday 11th. Made a fire, prepared breakfast, and ate alone as I did supper, then washed dishes. There's been no rain except a sprinkle this morning. Mary Kay brought home the glass that I handed her last eve, with beer and a piece of ice, bringing in return some peach sauce. Soul called, gave me Zula's photo. I showed him some letters found among Horace's papers yesterday, directed to General Joseph Smith, Nauvoo Hancock Co-Illy, and one written by him concerning the selling of the Maid of Iowa steamboat. This Soul wanted, but I thought too much of it, this being the only scrap in his handwriting, except his signature, that I possessed. He asked to take it, which I consented to. These letters were August 1889, brought to this country by BPN, K. Whitney. Helen and family returned this eve. I hurried through the hall to let them in and hit my forehead on the sharp edge of the closet door standing open bringing blood, and raised a lump making my head pain me. I bathed it in cold water and put arnica on it. They were tipped out yesterday, and going up Cannon Helen jumped out with baby and was bruised on the left leg. Brady narrowly escaped being killed. The wheel of scraped his left cheek. It gave them all a terrible fright. They had a splendid testimonial meeting this afternoon at Mrs. Barrett's camp and partook of sacrament. Mon 12th. Finished a letter begun yesterday to Sister P. Flawed came and spent the afternoon. Tuesday 13th. Worked moving buttons on my basque and fixed lils, etc. Commenced having deathly spells afternoon. Wednesday 14th. Had those spells all night and continuing am feeble from it and obliged to lay down the forenoon. Thursday 15th. Went yesterday at 2.40 to lake with Flawed and Helen. Lil and children felt better for it. George and Hen came out at eve and had lunch with us. Was kept awake last night by dogs. Have those spells lighter, but feel more feeble than yesterday morning. Phoebe called with Tess baby and sat a while. This is Helen's 5th birthday. Her pa got her a little tea set, felt too sick to set up, but Flawed came and took the girls and me a ride, which did me good. Returned stronger and much refreshed. She brought a watermelon and we ate it afterwards. Lunched, and she took me to the 14th Ward Schoolhouse to a concert. Helen came after and found me at Bro. Simpson's. We were delighted with Miss Flora Batson, colored, the greatest singer I ever heard. President Angus Cannon sat by us and politely waited on us at the close to Simpson's. While he looked out for the carriage that Flawed promised to send for me, he treated us to a cooling beverage. While there the carriage came and we were at home at 10 o'clock. Has stormed in mountains, cooling the atmosphere. Friday 16th. Kept awake till midnight by barking dogs in M.W.'s yard. AM stronger than yesterday though feeling sick. Did up 5 parcels of papers to mail. Had 3 deathly spells while doing so. Palpitation of the heart also. Saturday 17th. Didn't feel able to sweep and dust parlor, but cut and made George a garment. Helen clean my room in return. L. Clean the other 2. Those spells have come oftener last night and today. Felt better this afternoon than this morning. Had some rain today and at eve quite cool. Mary Ellen here. Sunday 18th. Up early, dressed little Genevieve, George Hent, and children went to Farmington this morn. The latter stay till Tuesday. Lil and Hattie gone with Flora to visit her family. Sol called with his photo for me. I got a lunch for Mary Ellen and self. Had more showers today. Read aloud sketches from the seer. Invited to a late dinner to Mary W.'s. Raining occasionally and towards night. Had a heavy one. George returned. Mon 19th. Rained this morning and weather cold. Cleared up towards noon. Cut out 2 garments for Lil. Made 1. Have been free from deathly spells since yesterday afternoon. Commenced a letter to Jen towards evening. Tuesday 20th. Spent the forenoon cleaning part of kitchen and furniture after a rest. Finished letter to Jen. Lil and I went to see Bid Young about selling my place. Not being home, left word for him to come to me. He soon came. Said he'd do his best for me free of charge. My price $7,000. He thought it would bring it after a while, but not now. I'm to keep 2 rods west and sell 3. Flawed called this afternoon. Promised to come tomorrow and stop with us a while. Wednesday 21st. Flawed came and spent the afternoon. Wants me Lil and Hent to go to her house tomorrow, it being my 61st natal day. Hent and children returned this eve from Farmington. Thursday 22nd. Spent forenoon mending Hent's black dress for L to wear to Flawed's, not being able to get a dressmaker. Flawed came for us in her buggy after 2 o'clock, taking me first. Lil next. Then Helen forgot Mary W. Presented me with a box of notepaper with ST and LK. City printed in the corner of each with envelopes. Flawed 3 embroidered handkerchief and pair black kid gloves. Hent made a big cake because it was my birthday, she said. Spent a pleasant time afternoon and was completely surprised at seeing L, M, Lute, Bud's wife, and Zine enter the parlor together. After dark, all saluting me with many happy returns, etc. Mary Whitney Deck, George Piper, G. Bourne, Bud, and Orson came after. Lal Clark and husband were also of the number, and Bro. and sister Dinwiddie, and Flo Clausen and her sister Mrs. Jennings, their mother Mrs. Dinwiddie, gave me a lovely book America Illustrated. Flawed telegraphed for her to come home. She's stoping out to the lake, which I thought curious of just to visit with me an afternoon. There were a number of things which I remembered transpiring, but had thought little or nothing of that is to remember. Till the truth was revealed, forgot to mention Orson's calling in the morning. He gave me $5 as a token, received a letter from Jenny saying she was sick from a cold, and also homesick. Friday 23th, spent at Flawed's towards Eve, took me a ride, and then home. Hent and Lil had tidied up my rooms. Saturday 24th, took out and cleaned the 3 windows and parlor, polished some furniture, and prepared my bed for a lodger, who'd called yesterday and looked at the room, and was to call today to get it of me. But after getting it ready, he never came, tired completely out. Flawed came and took me to see Zine, who had a girl baby this morn. She's fat and fine looking. Zine very comfortable. Sunday 25th, Soul called. I attended afternoon meeting with Lily and Helen. Apostle Taylor delivered a good discourse. Sat by Soul and wife near the stand, very warm. Zula came home with me and stopped a while. Commenced a letter to Jen. Mon 26th, cloudy somewhat and cooler. Finished letter to General Flawed visiting at Els. Tuesday 27th, cooler this morn. Sewed forenoon and wrote a letter to Sister Mary Lightner. Flawed came and took me, Lil, and Helen a ride. On my return, found a man and woman wishing to rent my room. Let it for $4 a week. They'd paid that for a poor room. And he said mine was worth $5. If that was worth $4, she said she'd take care of the room, which I appreciate. Wednesday 28th, slept but little. My cough the lung. Awoke before sunrise and slept no more. Found a job cleaning lounge of insects, put it in the back room, cleaned front room and dusted. Flawed took Helen to get her picture and babies. Forgot to mention Orson calling yesterday to leave tickets to the dedication of the LDS Seminary in 18th Ward next Friday evening. Flawed called, took Helen and baby to get pictures taken. Thursday 29th, rained and thundered some little this morning. Cut out and partly made George a pair of garments. Wrote a letter to Sister M. Lightner, and am to send her a photo of my father. Bro Charlie Barrel called to see about our using the water yesterday. I told him I could not get it to do any good to the lawn while Mary W. was using it, was why I used it out of time, so he changed it to 6 o'clock instead of 5. Said we must confine ourselves to half an hour. Mary Kimball was in today, and told an awful dream that she had a year ago. Dreamed of climbing a steep hill and did it cheerfully. When up to the top could see heaven, and a man urged her to enter there, but thought though the place was beautiful and grand, she told him that there was no one there that she knew, and had rather stay outside among those whom she did know, which tells plainly her history. She's withdrawn herself from the true church and society of saints, and made herself an alien from them. It made me sad to think of what is in store for her. Friday 30th. The Latter-day Saints Seminary building of the 18th Ward was dedicated this eve. A very interesting program was enjoyed, but I couldn't go not having any conveyance. Lil went in my place and I helped take care of Helen's baby. I went today and paid my tithing out of my allowance $6, got a tablecloth at T.O. store. Finished G's garments. Dreamed last night of driving a span of skittish horses drawing a sleigh, and the snow was quite deep on the ground. Not good. Saturday 31st. Lily cleaned my front and back rooms. I fixed her a dress and did other jobs. Flawed here near night had been sick and felt poorly. Got a postal from Mrs. Peyton. Commenced a letter to Jen Mary W. Gone down to Provo. Sunday, September 1st. Soul here a while. Also Sister Anna Christensen went with her to afternoon conference, and from there to Bro Charlie's. They've got a lovely home. Mon 2nd. Lily laid with me and spent a wretched night sobbing and groaning. She went to conference with me all day, felt better for it. I was sent for after meeting to go to Flawed, she having been very sick since being up here Saturday. Found her better than the man had told me. Helen had gone down, feeling worried about her, and sent for her baby. I took it to her. We returned at dusk. Tuesday 3D. Emptied a feather bed into 4 bags, made a factory to wash feathers, was sent for to go to Flawed. Hent also Lil and I went. Hent stopped home till after dinner and to bake bread. Found Flawed weak and in a bad way from her kidneys, and distressed with wind, very nervous. And I did what we could. She got lunch at noon and had cooked dinner at 4 o'clock. Hent came after 3. We returned home after 6. Left Flo Clausen with flawed. Wednesday 4th. Mr. Charlotte paid $2 this morn and afterwards informed me he got a job at the park and was to leave this afternoon, wanted $1 back, and I was foolish enough to give it him. They left sooner than I'd expected, and I knew nothing of it till they'd gone. Found all in the room right, except my tumbler they'd had a drink in was gone. My sign I tacked up again. Dr. Barney called to invite me to Brother George Cannon's farm a week from today. Finished a letter to Jen Hent, got a letter from her today. Thursday 5th. Fast day, Helen and children gone to Bro. Borns. I fasted at home, prepared to go to Farmer's Ward. Sister Horn sending me word to that effect yesterday. Relief Society meeting at Sister Woodruff's. Met Nellie Colebrook there and her little boy, and also President Woodruff, who came while we were eating supper. Had a good time. Friday 6th. Had my washing done. Helen went to see Florence yesterday, thought her a little better though still very sick, concluded to visit her, got some soap at Equitable Coop store, went to Dinwiddie's store to learn of Hen how flawed was. Though feeling little able, found he'd not been up today, waited at Sorensen's store on Main Street for the D and R G car and rested me. Flawed glad to see me, looks awfully and suffering from wind. Sister D was cleaning the house. I waited on Flawed and her bowels running, giving some relief. Doctor said she must keep her bed 4 days longer, feared inflammation, and said she must lay quiet. Hen being with her nights tired out. Saturday 7th. I slept upstairs in Flo's room next door. First good night's sleep enjoyed for a fortnight. Flawed had a bad night. Hen and his mother with her suffered dreadfully from pain, but some better afternoon, and slept a few naps but very nervous. Evening Flawed quite comfortable, but pain returned with increased power caused by company, and too much talking. Flo and Johnny, I've not felt so disheartened before, felt sure that she'd not recover without greater wisdom. And faith was exercised, forgot Orson and Soul were sent for Flo, going and bringing them this morning to administer to Flawed. And she was better, though eating nothing scarcely as yet. Sunday 8th. I enjoyed a good night, though very anxious about Flawed, prayed earnestly on my knees, and when waking numbers of times through the night learned that she'd had the best night, and all the rest that they'd had since her sickness. Concluded to go home. Hen brought me about noon. Bathed and attended meeting, enjoyed the sermon by Charles Stainer and singing. George took me to Orson's near time for evening meeting. Lily walked up, found Zine downstairs. Babe, a fortnight old. John T. Kane preached in the chapel, enjoyed it. Orson spoke a few words. Forgot to mention meeting him at the corner of our block, going to Tabernacle, and telling me that Soul was likely to have some money for me soon from the land, which he has been working to get from a man named Johnson, once given by Anna Gein and family towards the publishing of Father's Life by Tullidge and Crandall, and afterwards sold by Sam, or his portion of it. Bud helped me down the steep coming from evening meeting. I asked him to assist in getting a lodger, or lodgers for me, said he would do his best. Stove and table brought me $3.1. Mon 9th. Had a poor night. Lily sighing and groaning all night. Had a visit from Soul. He gave a history of his work and doings to get to publish Father's Life from the beginning till now. Read an article written by Tullidge upon it, and his mind about those who gave money towards it in the start, receiving their pay from the land, etc. And I signed my name to a document gotten up to that effect. Tuesday 10th. Heard through Hence seeing Mrs. D. that Flawed was better, but Elle called and learned from her that she'd had 2 chills. Heard that Helen nearly died the day Mary went to her last Friday. Dr. Barney called last eve to see me about going to the birthday party picnic, getting up for Sister Cannon Wednesday. Next, and my writing in an album to be presented to her. I declined the former and told her to take no more trouble about my going. Received a letter from Jen last eve. Helen gone to sing at the funeral of Mr. Reed by request of Hebe Wells, and a note. I made a pair of large pillow slips this forenoon, tired out, troubled with cough most of the time. Hent went to see Flawed, who's some better, said she'd send for me tomorrow. Wednesday 11th. Dr. Barney called to tell me she'd got away for me to ride to Cannon's, tried to get out of going, being ready to go to Flawed's to stop, but couldn't get off. She offered to take me to Flawed's. When I got there they'd sent buggy for me. Flawed somewhat poorly from the chills. Orson called with Bro. Arthur Stainer and administered to her. Came home at 5 o'clock, watered my lawn and dressed. Sister Hyde called and took me to Sister Cannon's, had very good time. She was overcome. The surprise was so great. President Woodruff and a few other brethren were there. They've a beautiful place quite new to me. Enjoyed the moonlight coming home. Found Lily gone to Orson's. Thursday 12th. Walked to R.S. in 14th Ward, not being ready when Sister Horn called to take me. Was invited to go and dine with Sarah Kimball, but accepted Sister Stevens instead as she lived nearer, and walking down tired me out. Sister B. Smith and Horn were there. The latter sent for to make grave clothes for a friend. Left me to preside, a duty never before placed upon me. I tried to get excused, my plea being inexperience and incapacity. Sister B. Smith would take in my place, but for Sarah Kimball, who would not let me, but insisted upon my taking up the cross. I did to the best of my ability. Sister Zena encouraged me by praising my short speech at the opening of the meeting. 2 brethren were present. Bro Curtis one, I invited him to close the meeting. Soul met me at the door and informed me that he'd been hunting me to read a long epistle he'd written to A.K. about the land sold to T.N.C. towards writing our father's life. He'd hired a hack on finding me gone. I thinking to go to Flood's from home, hent directed him there. He called 3 times and waited there for me, but I'd changed my mind and went to conference, where he found me. Walked to Flood's, found her wonderfully better. Friday 13th, returned home at 12 o'clock, got bottle of witch hazel cream and ammonia for washing my feathers. Flora helped to lift and carry the bags and clean my clothes. Horse to hang them to dry, tired out, but watered my lawn. Weather chilly. Hent and children out visiting. Saturday 14th, Lil swept and dusted my rooms and cleaned portico. I cleaned my glass toilette and polished some furniture, etc. Afternoon started for Flood's. Got 2 pair stockings at Coop for $1.25 all I'd brought, having forgotten that I expected to take the car, so had to walk. Legs shook, but I'd 2.5 block yet before me. Surprised the folks as much as I did myself that I stood it. Flawed better, so she read some. Sister D, ready to go uptown, and glad I'd come. My left wrist lame, hurt badly all night, glad to have nothing worse from yesterday's work. Sunday 15th, Flawed told the DR of her walking 4 steps yesterday. He told her it was no credit to her, and not to do it again. Danger, he said, of increasing the inflammation in her womb. She's dressed for the first time. And sat up some time. I feel my walk a little. Nearly finished. Letter to Jen. Mon 16th. My daughter sat up 3 times, looks splendid. Sister Dinwiddie asked me if I could stop here, feels she must go home. I was taken up to mine towards night, concluded to remain to get things ready to take in the morn. Wrote A.P.S. to Jen and sealed the letter. Tuesday 17th, sent for at 10 o'clock. Doctor says Flawed can walk in her room, so she's careful, but not go outdoors for a while. Dangerous if she has a pullback. Sister D. Left after I came. Went across the road and bought some candy for my cough. Read a novel story to amuse Flawed. Wednesday 18th, cleaned Flawed's room and did other things and read to her. Returned home after dark. Go to Sandy in the morning. Thursday 19th, up early, walked to depot, arriving 6 MTS before 7. Sisters Horn, S. Kimball. Howard came after, then Aunt Zena, Bathsheba Smith. The 2 last thought so many needless, and went back. Harriet Kimball was on the train. The R.S. President had breakfast for us. The society had dinner in the meeting house. I spoke at both meetings, as did the other 3. Left for North Jordan Ward. I spoke of my sick daughter and that I ought to go home to her. Sister Cooper said I could telephone home and she'd pay for it. They all were opposed to my going back, so Hen was telephoned to that I'd be gone till Sat. We put up at night at Sister Egbort's. President of R.S. of that ward. I had sad feelings at remembering being there 5 years ago with Sister Freeze and Ellis Ship, where we attended the same society. And finding Horace worse on my return, I left him in Mary's charge. Being sick, had pleurisy, and he being very comfortable, went for a rest, and to be refreshed in spirit. But went to attend to her in confinement, and he was taken a ride by her girls in a cold wind, insufficiently wrapped, took cold, and grew worse till he died. Friday 20th. Rained in the night, walked some distance, and the ground wet. Felt fears for my health after meeting. Walked back, and had a hill to climb. Laid down, being tired out. Afternoon, we attended conference at South Jordan, and returned. After supper, Sister Howard and I went home with Sister Holt. Rained this afternoon, but only the going to and from the carriage. Did I feel it, being well protected in Sister Bill's phaeton. Sister Howard and I accompanied Sister Holt to stop the night with her, pleased to meet her son, who was one of the missionary brethren whipped by a mob in the South. He came home a month ago and is suffering from ague. Saturday, 21st. I had a coughing spell in the night, clear with cold wind. Sister Bills came for me and gave her place to young Holt to drive, as he accompanied us to conference at Fort Herman. Enjoyed the ride and conversation on the way. He was very pleasant company. We had a very good meeting, but I was tired out and took more cold sitting in a draft at dinner. We were driven 3 miles to take the train, and the jarring made my head ache and started my left side paining me, felt worse every minute, and having to walk from the car. The pain through my side and shoulder was so piercing, could not help groaning aloud before I got home. Found no fire, took chill, rubbed me with oil and turpentine, and took a second chill after I'd retired. I prayed the Lord to send an angel to administer to me, as I'd no one to send for an elder. In a few moments came a knock at my door. 'Twas Orson. He didn't know I was sick, he said, but was impressed to come around. I took this as an answer to prayer. I believed that I'd been restored under his administration, rested pretty good through the night. Sunday, 22nd, much better. Got up after 1 o'clock. Sol called in the forenoon to get my signature to 3 articles concerning that land over which he's had so much trouble. Lily went to our chapel to hear Orson's lecture. George and many more failed to get in. Mon 23d. Still better, but very feeble weather, cold. Flawed sent her buggy for me, told the man I'd get a hack, as I dared not ride in an open conveyance. Hent went to T.O. and got Lil goods for a nice winter dress, and called at the corner and ordered a hack, and I came to Flawed. She was astonished that I came, thought I looked so sick, hardly able to stand up, or even to sit up, and laid down. Afternoon was wonderfully better. Flawed feeling stronger that I left her, but suffers still from wind. Tuesday, 24th. Climb not the golden stairs, but steep ones last night. Could not have done it in the forenoon. Had headache this morn, cured by cup of tea. Helen and L. called. They'd been to Fanny Young's funeral. She died Sunday eve with typhoid fever. Helen was worried about me and surprised to find me sewing, putting a band on my petticoat. Flawed suffering awfully from wind and gnawing pain from eating so little. Miserable appetite, can't eat anything this eve. Little Joseph would been a year and 4 months old today if he'd lived. Oh, the sweet lamb. Lily mourns almost unceasingly, is losing flesh. Yesterday morn she cried bitterly, but before going out of my room bowed in prayer. Wednesday, 25th. Dr. thought Flawed required an experienced nurse. I'd thought so from the first, I told him. She ate nothing last eve, and suffered from it all night, has no appetite for what is brought her. Hent here with baby. Afternoon brought word that a telegram came yesterday that bro. Abe was dead and only delivered today. She'd taken it to City Hall. Sol absent, gave it to Orson. Flawed had a frightful time after her evening lunch. I thought she'd go into spasms from wind. Sister Horn called to see if I'd go to Mill Creek with her in the morn, told her I would. Thursday, 26th, per night's sleep, but was up early. Sister Horn belated tea was nearer 9 than 8 o'clock before she came. She'd been for Sisters Stevenson and Yates, the latters from Scipio. Had a lovely ride and 2 good meetings, spoke quite lengthy at each. Met a Sister Morgan who inquired after Jen and Flawed. She'd met them at Talbot's. Our ride home was enjoyable. Found Flawed doing better, eating better, and better every way. She's had no spasms this evening. I feel better for my journey today. Friday, 27th. Slept till near 10 and better for it. Worked on a garment for Flawed, finishing it as well as waiting on her. Her appetite improving. Saturday, 28th. I mended and sewed some for Flawed. She's walked around more that she's done before, and by her Dr's consent. Sol called this afternoon to read a letter from Joseph F. Smith and his reply to it. I left there after 6 o'clock. Sister D. brought me home on the way, called at Davis's store and got a jug of microbe killer. Lily feeling poorly in body and in mind. Sunday, 29th. Kept awake by barking dogs and poor Lily's moans. George put up the little stove in my back room. Went to meeting with Lily and Hent. Heard a good sermon by Bro. Roberts. My strength hardly equal to the walk. Commenced a letter this eve to Jen. Mon 30th. So much improved, emptied feathers back into bed, Tick emptied another into the same bags, and boiled them. Lily rinsed, and helped hang them out. I filled a pillow to give to a poor family, who were assisted to emigrate from England, but lost all they had on the wreck train. Harriet S. Kimball called and visited a while. Tuesday, October 1st, partly made Flawed's garment. Hen brought her up in buggy, had to drive slowly with care. Hence made a party for children's birthday celebration yesterday. Brady was 3 years old. They've had a glorious time. Gifts were numerous. Harriet's with me. Wednesday 2nd. Finished the garment and did various things. Hen brought Flawed, left her a while, and came for her. A sister from Kenosh brought me a letter written by Abe to his family August 28, 1885, to be read at his death, and not before, expressing his wish of how they should do with him at his death, and his feelings concerning dying, and C, requesting to be buried by the side of his wife Laura, and testimony that he knew Mormonism to be true. A cousin of Abe's accompanied the sister and gave some particulars about Abe and C. Thursday 3D. After retiring, had a spell of stagnation of blood, had them better part of the night and today, making me feel pretty poorly. Dr. Barney called to see if I'd like to visit the fair. Glad to accept. As Eve arrived, met Charlotte Kirby with Orson and Zine in her carriage. Going from the fair, it was crowded with people, went through without sitting down but once 3 or 4 minutes, and had none of those deathly spells after leaving home till I'd been round and viewed the stock, etc., outside, and sat down to rest. We wrote our names and dwelling places to take our chance in getting a buggy. Lily washed our clothes yesterday and ironed them today, also helped F. to do Helen's. A country couple were married at the fair by George Piper and were presented with quite an outfit towards housekeeping to reward them for accepting the challenge. Friday 4th, attended conference all day and tired out. Flawed was here afternoon, I'm told, and greatly improved. Her help has left, and she and Hen gone to stop with his mother. Glad of that. Saturday 5th, felt more poorly, had more deathly spells today than yesterday, but attended conference all day. Met numbers of old friends today and yesterday. Met some, among them was Sister Holt and son, whom I met at North Jordan, and put up with the night of the 20th of Sep last. Orson was the second speaker, and opposed John Henry Smith, the 3D, bearing testimonies that ought to touch the hearts of the youths of Israel. Apostle Snow spoke first, but could hear little of his sermon. Sister Jane T. Simons came home with me at noon. I'd gone and offered to lodge a couple, there being such a call for accommodations to conference folks. On returning this afternoon, found a couple had come with E. B. Wells' recommendation to stop, and Sister Hubbard coming feeble and tired. I was put to my wits' ends, but fortunately the couple went away and did not return. Sunday 6th, Lil and I went to conference with the two sisters. L. remained there and lunched with Jane, and I came home to dinner. Met numbers of friends. President Merrill of Logan Temple, among them 4 vacances in the quorum of 12 filled today. Press Merrill Lund. Abraham Cannon, after meeting, felt very poorly and used up those spells afflicting me still. Mon 7th, felt poorly, slept so little, kept awake by loud talk and laughter at Mary's front door. Had to leave my bed and take the lounge in the back room. Afterwards, Sister Simons came from meeting to stop all night. Attended Relief S. conference and suffrage at Assembly Hall. Enjoyed the latter and R. S. At evening. Hunt went with me. Felt better at evening than I had for a week. Joined the suffrage and gave 25 for fee. Called at X office for papers. Received a letter from Jenny. Tuesday 8th. Hen drove Flawed up. She's looking better. Rented my west room to 2 men carpenters. Just arrived from don't know where. Paid me $6 for 2 weeks. As I wouldn't move out of my room, I told them for 1 week they wanting me to, as they were not sure of the job at building in the city suiting them, but wanted it bad enough to submit to my terms. Went to work and took out the lounge and chairs, all but 2, to give room for their trunks. Made a bolster and filled it with feathers for their use. Laying awake so much is telling on me. Wednesday 9th, worked hard putting feathers in 2 beds, and made a pillow. Tick washed it, and some towels after drying. Lil ironed, and I filled the pillow Tick with feathers for my lodgers, having lately given one away. Mary Whitney offered me and Lil tickets to go to the opera, but I preferred rest, and the weather's not favorable. Fix Lil, and she's gone with Hent. Sat and wrote to Jen and took cold. Thursday 10th, throat sore. Lil and I cleaned our rooms and moved double lounge into front room and little one into the back very tired, but finished my letter to General Soul came to see me. The work of fixing our graveyard begins tomorrow. Friday 11th. Soaked my feet and dosed myself last eve, but lungs and head painful, coughed badly through the day and not able to sit up much. Flawed sick again, but better today. Saturday 12th. I laid in bed part of the forenoon, feel better having been physicked, and took quinine yesterday afternoon. Looked over a big pile of papers, selecting the most interesting to send away. Orson called and spent a while at Eva, son of Adelia Kimball of Canosh. Called to pay me $4.25, which Adelia got for my book sold at Canosh. Sunday 13th. Wind from the north this morning, bespeaking wintry weather, blowed over. George and Helen went to meeting at Tabernacle. My health improved. Mon 14th. Rained this morning, and again towards evening. Helen received a letter from Jen's sister Dinwiddie, came to take me to her house. Flawed wanted to see me. Maypac began Lil's dress today. Found Flawed much better. She'd been for a walk 2 blocks and back. Tuesday 15th. Rained all night. Marked a garment for H. Flawed and I rode with Sister D. Towards night brought me home storm threatening. Found May working at Lil's dress. L. Did our washing yesterday. I dreamed last night of Lil's baby falling from an upstairs north window onto the stove platform up to my mother's house and was killed. Her bed was by the window, and as she got out the front side, he pitched out. Wednesday 16th. Maypac finished L's dress. I paid her $3 cash, bro. Patrick sent the full amount of T.O. script to Mary and me. $44 in merchandise, $4 meat orders. Lovely day. Thursday 17th. Fine weather. Made 2 pair of pillowcases. Had a little visit from Laura Pack. Cleaned my bedroom. Friday 18th. Helen went with Lily to see Flawed at Sister Dinwiddie's. L. To stop all night. She's very sad, poor girl. Received a letter from Jen yesterday and postal from Sister Peyton. Saturday 19th. Towards night. Sister D. and Flawed brought Lily home and took me a ride. Sister Jane Simons came at eve. To stop all night, I wrote a few lines to Jeanette Taylor to send by Jane, who goes home to Payson tomorrow. Said she'd take a parcel for me to Jeanette. Sunday 20th. Cloudy, mild weather. My cough brought on darting pains through my left side last eve. Covered it with flannel wet in oil and turpentine. Soon relieved me. My head aches caused by cold. George brought my bedstead and mattresses down from upstairs, dusted and put it up in my room, not having time weekdays. Feel grateful, having slept on my lounge, and not very comfortable. For some time back slept on the floor last night, had a feather bed, and laid as well as the lounge. Soul has been to see me, told me another very interesting dream. Hen and Flawed were up afternoon. Lil went to the Tabernacle. Mon 21st. Rainy morning. Commenced to fix my flannel dress, wrote a little. George took my tax money to courthouse. They took off $5 from city tax. Because of my being a widow, George advanced $40 to pay for the sewerage that's to pass my house at some future date. Tuesday 22nd. Felt sick, but worked on my basque. My lodgers left unceremoniously when I accosted the oldest. He said he didn't know till last evening that they were going to leave, had got a place nearer their work. Wednesday 23d. Still feeling poorly, cloudy and rained at eve. Did a little work on dress and wrote a little. Thursday 24th. Rainy night, cleared up, and Helen, Lily and I went to Juliet's on streetcar by invitation. Had pleasant times. In their first. Orson came to dinner. Mrs. Wood and Matthews. George Chase's daughters there. Flawed and Lute came late. Flawed not getting word that she's invited till coming home. Lute told her. She drove me home with Lute. A.M. poorly. Friday 25th. Still poorly, but moved the things from my back room that I left yesterday with whitewasher's help and sewed some while he was at work. Then Lily and I cleaned and put things back. I hung some pictures, was tired out, but thankful the work's done. Bro, Horn called to see if I'd go to R.S. in 14th Ward tomorrow. His wife, the president, gone to Logan. So sick, began taking quinine to see if it would relieve me. Saturday 26th. Feel better. Race called this morn, his 9th birthday. I gave him an arithmetic of his grandpa's. Head began aching towards noon. A Sister Augusta Mink cailed with a letter of recommend from Sister Sarah D. Rich wants to be adopted with all her kin. To my father, I was willing, and directed her to Bro. Soul, As the proper one, she took word for me to Dr. Barney to ask her to take me to 14th Ward meeting. She came and took me Sister S. Kimball was presiding, Sister Taylor there just home from the States. I walked home, got alcohol on the way, and called to get exponent. Also to D. News, and got a back number of Bro. N, which I had missed getting, and to T. O. for some ink. Sunday 27th. Head still aching, dreamed 2 or 3 times in the night of having charge of sick babe, and of being in the basement or cellar of a house built by my father for me. He was there, and when I said something of my house to others present, he sternly said, "This house is mine." The basement, I thought, was not deep enough for a cellar to make it cool in the summer, and only 3/4 of it was dug, the other was to be dug, but the house stood over it and seemed finished. But I liked this part best, it being cooler and more comfortable, and wished it was finished. The weather being extremely warm, had a call from Seoul, and Orson came and made me quite a visit, told me some interesting things, also a dream had a number of years ago. My head feeling better, wrote to Jen towards night. Mon 28th, rained and snowed, composed some verses. Flawed came and took Lil home with her, soul called and told some peculiar things of the political moves being made. He, Orson, and myself feel alike upon the subject. Tuesday 29th, cloudy and a little rain and hail. Paid Simpson $150 for whitewashing, in orders on meat market, worked a little on my basque. Wednesday 30th, dark and disagreeable outside, composed more verses. Thursday 31st. Another month gone, woman did my washing, paid her my last dollar, no lodger in my room, yet a beautiful day. Flawed and Lil came to see us at Eve. Mary W. gave me a tick sent by Bud, and we attended Gilmore's festival in Tabernacle, enjoyed it though tired and sleepy, having sat up very late the night previous. Friday, November 1st. Lovely day, dreamed that I was about moving into an unfinished house that I'd had built south of the city. It had been occupied by Bro. Warge Q. Cannon, his family were moving out, and when I went there, Lil and one other of my girls were putting down an old rag carpet that I'd thrown away. They were hurrying, and there were holes and ridges, and I told them I couldn't have that down, that I'd intended to put down my best one, and that must come up, then thought I could leave it and put the other over it. T would save it from wearing out. I looked up at the roof, there'd been no floor nor rafters as yet, and I never saw an old smokehouse smoke darker than that roof, and the 4 walls were nearly as bad, growing darker from the floor to the roof. I said I'd never live in a place like that, it would have to be whitewashed, that I'd rather go back where I'd been living. But that would be a hard job, I thought, as my things were all moved down. A Sister Cannon with some of her children were there still, not having moved quite all their things away, though they were out of the house. There seemed to be but one room. Significant dream. Orson came this forenoon to see if I'd like to attend the afternoon Gilmore festival, this being my 3rd chance, as G. Bourne was intending giving me his ticket if I was well enough to go tonight. I blacked my parlor stove with a new preparation, polished it with little brushing. Flawed sent me $1 to go to festival tonight. I sat up late with Flora and helped to take care baby. Heard that Soul's little Roy died today from croup, liberals drumming up their forces tonight. Saturday 2nd. Cleaned a little and mended my black dress. Soul came and told me particulars of Roy's sickness and death. Visited with Sister Lenord of Farmington, she and daughter at Helen's. Sunday 3D. Attended the funeral of Roy Kimball. Soul sent a buggy for me. Orson and Bro. Nicholson were the speakers. Poor Zula bears up as best she can. On my return, stopped at Orson's and attended evening meeting at the schoolhouse. He spoke after Bro. Patrick slept with Zine and with a young Bro Hardy boarding with them. Mon 4th, stopped till afternoon and took care of Zine's baby for her to go downtown. Told my Friday night dream to Orson. On my way home, called on Sister Musser, and Lou Barton found her smart, got a fine baby, while there had one of my deathly spells, made water brack rise 3 or 4 times, felt fearful. The liberals out this eve, and lots of yelping boys. Lil called with Flawed's girl and buggy. Taking her a ride they send for us all tomorrow. Tuesday 5th, pleasant but cold hent and family with myself. Spent day at Flawed's. I shortened the rap that Flawed gave Lily. Wednesday 6th, received a letter from General Soul, called, and I gave him in writing what I desired, engraven on Charlie's and little Joseph's gravestones, which are now at Moriz's. Orson called at Eve to give me a letter from Peyton, accompanying one from his BP in Logan. Had another of those spells, but it was light. Thursday 7th, fast day. Sent a dollar order by Helen for donation, fasted at home. Soul paid me a visit, after which I went to Phoebe's, found her out, but stayed with Tess till my work was done. Had those spells last night and today. Friday 8th, pressed my flannel dress and fixed the skirt. Soul's wife and children spent a time with us. Soul called afternoon, hence baby sick. We washed and anointed her. Saturday 9th, cleaned my front and back room, very tired after it. Flawed, and Lil came up, baby much better. Commenced a letter to Jen. Sunday 10th. A change in the weather, rained and hailed a little and windy, spent the day reading, etc. George and Hent went to evening meeting. Ed Sloan spoke, he took dinner with us yesterday. Mon 11th. Moved my bedstead in parlor, cleaned out a scuttle nearly full of soot from the chimney, and a whole brick. Took care of Hent's baby while she was washing, and finished my letter to Jen. Lovely day. Tuesday 12th. Cleaned and put down oil, cloth, and blacked the pipe for the parlor stove, cleaned my cellar, and swept the stairs and some of the yard. Wednesday 13th. Stormy somewhat. Helen doing her work, I helped take care of baby. Flora went home yesterday. George put up my parlor stove, worked at my flannel dress, forgot the letter I received Mon from cousin Libby, the reply to mine written long ago. Thursday 14th. Flawed, and Lil came and spent the day, weather fine, finished sitting my parlor to rights this forenoon. Friday 15th. Fine day spent at sewing. Mary Ellen called, commenced a letter to Bro. Abe's wife and mother Helen got one from Jen. Saturday 16th. Got up and made my fire, lovely weather, cleaned my rooms a little, finished and mailed letter to Abe's wife. Sunday 17th. Spent in my west room. Soul my only caller, he told me a beautiful dream he'd had, cloudy day. Mon 18th. Did little but take care of Hent's baby, and sewed a very little. Hent washed, had bad dreams of Lil and self. Tuesday 19th. Rained last night. George helping take up dining room carpet and bring cook stove in, and I taking care of baby. Anna Christensen called to see me. I gave her 3 of my books. The sun has come out. Wednesday 20th. Suffering from cold, took quinine and bromide at night for wakefulness. Soul called and related 2 peculiar dreams. Thursday 21st. My dear Charlie's 24th birthday, had he lived. Received a letter yesterday from General, not feeling well. Friday 22. Anna Christensen brought me 75 CTS, got for the books that I gave her. I gave her 1.5 dozen to sell, except one to reserve for herself. Feel quite poorly, cough badly. Saturday 23. Laying awake nights affects my health. Sweeping my 2 rooms tired me out. Hent dusted the front one after cleaning woodwork in her part. I helped to take care of baby and finished my nightgown. Soul brought me father's likeness back, that's been in Will Clausen's gallery since he painted it for the temples. Had a fresh jug of microbe killer from Devise's, lacks 6 days of 2 months since getting the last one. Sunday 24th. Head ached, laid awake in the night. Soul called, told of Mr. Sell living in father's house, having a liberal gathering there. And in a speech he made ridicule of father, said something of the walls being saturated with prayers of the priesthood and bedbugs, etc. All was published in their dirty trib, and Phoebe, the owner of the house, sent Frank Jennings and notified him that she'd give him 1 month to get out of the house, that if it was full of bedbugs, they had brought them, as there was none when they came there. Some granddaughter, a liberal, think it Bell Pitts, put a piece in the trib against it and in praise of her grandfather. Mon 25th wrote a retaliation to that dirty speech of Mr. Sell's in the trib and sent it by George to the news. Spent the afternoon going over papers and gathering out the best to send away. Health better. Took care of baby while Hent washed, weather fine. Tuesday 26th. Flora got Hent and me each a quilt at $3 each. Did up 6 packages of papers to mail and 2 heralds to send. Cad Kimball Phoebe requesting me to send them regular, and she'd find stamps. Mary Grew was here. She broke her right wrist, fell off a chair when fixing her stovepipe. Wednesday 27th. Wrote another article on Mr. Sell's Sacrilegion Act and sent it by George to the Herald. Last eve, E.B. Wells and Zena Young called with a young man from Cal who wanted a testimony from me and others of the prophet Joseph's wives to show to his sweetheart's father, who'd dismissed him from his house for declaring that Joseph had a plurality of wives, the father being a member of the newly organized church. A peculiar incident transpired as the door opened to let them in. A sparrow flew into my big room and remained all night when I let it out. Sol called and left me $100 and 8.40 CTS. After many days my bread cast upon the water has returned with usury. Lily has come home, feels no better in her mind, went to Coop, got a pair of boots and rubbers for myself, called at news off for my copy they hadn't printed. Found flawed home on my return. She took me to Coop and Herald office to stop my copy given George being printed, as Phoebe told me that sales had a hold on the house for 3 more months. Thursday 28th. Mr. Charlotte came to see if he could get my room again. I let him have it for $16 a month. His wife soon came. They say they only stop a month. He's a liberal, I'm sure. Charlotte paid $1 towards it. Friday 29th. Laid awake so long, slept late this morning, went to tea. Oh, to pay $01 tithing from the 100, went into the store, got 2 children's books. Ruffling and pearl buttons, went to Coop for a few things, 12 YRDS factory, a wash bowl, 2 pair stockings, and dustpans. So tired, could hardly get home. Mr. Charlotte are out tonight in liberal uniform. This is their night, 200 strong. Wrote a letter to Jen. Saturday 30th. Finished and mailed my letter to Jen and 4 heralds to Cad Kimball. Flawed came up. Lil helped Mary W. She gave L a pass to the Negro concert. Sunday, December 1st. Sat up till L came home and was kept awake some time after midnight by Mr. and Mrs. Charlotte quarreling. She called me a number of times to order him out of the house. I told him if he did not get quiet I'd send for a policeman. And her I told that if she'd cease talking to him he'd quiet down the sooner, that there was no use of talking to a drunken man. She soon left and there was no more noise. He'd been out on another liberal spree. Sol came as usual, and Flawed and Hen were here the forenoon. Lily went to Tabernacle George to chapel at eve. I gave Mr. C to understand that I wouldn't have him nor anybody in my house that got drunk and disturbed my sleep. I wasn't used to it and didn't intend to be. He said he wouldn't do the like again, that he'd drink, and his wife aggravated him. I told him I knew it, and he'd been on a liberal fray. Yes, that's it, he said, as if glad of an excuse. Looked awfully demure, said he'd go talk to the old woman. She hadn't returned. He'd made the bed and slicked up the room and kept indoors till he went for her at night. Mon 2nd. Ransom cut out 2 nightgowns for Lil and made one, and fixed her a pair of corsets. Tired out hand washing. Tuesday 3D. Lil washed, weather clearer, rained a few showers. Mormons strong in the faith are refused the right of citizenship. No Mormon need apply. Liberal laws with a vengeance. Wednesday 4th. Hent and children gone to Flawed's. Cut down a black shirt of mine yesterday and fixed it for L. Wrote a letter today, rained a few showers. Thursday 5th. Fast day, which I kept at home as usual. Cut and fitted a black basque for L and sponged the skirt. Gave her $1 to go to theater this eve. She's gone with Flora. Got a letter from Jen and one to Hent enclosed in it. Little Helen's sick with sore throat. Dr. White came to see her. I paid him $5 for calling to see little Joseph twice, though he did no good. Charlotte's paid $1 today on the 2nd week. A horrible stench has been in the atmosphere for days, enough to breed disease. Our Taiji sick in the shanty. Friday 6th. Did a little sewing. Flawed was up a few minutes per Taiji's, had 2 pups, found them dead, and she looks like death. Got a box and had her brought in the bathroom. She died in the evening, poor little thing. We feel sad over her loss. She seemed almost like a member of the family. Saturday 7th. Sat up late, throat sore, and coughed badly. Worked at Lil's black skirt, windy, and snowed this morning and hailed towards night. The sky grew dark like an eclipse previous to the hail. Lovely moonlight evening though. Sunday 8th. Slept good, but feel very poorly. Lovely day, and very quiet. No one called on me today. Mon 9th. Snowed heavily, feel very poorly. Tuesday 10th. Helped take care Hent's baby. They washing. The stench that's troubled us came from the canal in Mary Kay's lot where it caved in. Men been working at it, and they're digging it through my yard now to see if any more of the lumber had rotted. Sent papers to Caroline. Wednesday 11. Received a letter from Jen. Did nothing but write, only cleaning my room. My lodgers had another rough and scuff quarrel Monday night, she going off at daybreak in the storm. He lodged alone that night and never came last night. I shook the door till the catch dropped yesterday and found the front door unlocked and the room in a dirty plight. Spread up bed and did other things, and took his liberal cup and cape, with a check for a 5C drink with the letters J, B, M on it, and leggings put them away as he's not paid the $3 due me. This morn he came, and finding the door locked left a pair of my pillowcases dirty that his wife had taken by mistake, and went off without seeing anyone. They'll not get my room again. Last eve Miss called to see if she could stop all night as she's engaged to sew in the city. I kept her, and L slept with Flora. Thursday 12th, nothing of interest transpired. Got a cold. Friday 13th, Zine called, went towards night to tea. Store got some apron stuff, white and blue and white. Checked, bought some little things for Christmas gifts at Equitable Store, and called for exponent lovely weather. Saturday 14th, dreamed of Charlie. Thought he'd come from Logan, had married, and I asked him where they were to live. He said with me. He looked so well, it left a pleasing impression. Thought I was upstairs, and he came up there. Sunday 15th. Have slept good 2 or 3 nights, feel well. Had a visit from Soul. He's been set apart and blessed to act for father and mother in adoptions in Temple. Mary Whitney came in and said a short time, a rarity. Mon 16th. Girls washed. I helped take care baby and wrote. Tuesday 17th. Commenced a white apron for Jen E. B. W. Brought a sister Foster to see if I'd let her my big room. She's in a delicate way, and hunted by depths. I let her have it. Seems very sad, but is an agreeable person. Wednesday 18th, Zine called and invited us to spend Christmas with them. I wrote a postal to Jen. Felt poorly yesterday and today from not sleeping enough. Conference of our Society today in 14th Ward didn't go as there's so much snow and too hard to walk. Cold last night and clear today. Sent by Hent and got 6 fine handkerchiefs for $1 each and 6 nice ones for 5 CTS apiece. Did 2 up for Jen and Eddie and a red silk one for her husband, and send tomorrow with an apron. Got lace for the latter and put it on and finished it. Wrote a little at an article for X. Spent evening with lodger, also Lil. Thursday 19th. Slept so little, feel it sorely. Orson called. Snow falling. Did up Christmas gifts for 26 grown folks and children to present, and a box of things from 4 of the family to Jen. Orson sent his picture to put in with ours for her. Friday 20 SD. Still feel unwell from too little sleep. Saturday 21st. Slept good from taking bromide early. Lily cleaned the little rooms except sweeping the front one, and I enjoyed a pleasant rest and wrote a little. Sister Vic Foster left this eve. Hated to have her go. She would stayed, but wanted her board as well as lodging. She gave me $4 against my wishes, having been here only 4 days. But she insisted, thinking she'd made me trouble. We became friends from the start. I gave her one of my books bound. Sunday 22D. Had a quiet Sunday. Soul called. I read Constable, Mon 23D. At last there's found to be no help only from God. Fast day with the saints, that the plans of these wicked persecutors may be thwarted, etc. This is the birthday of the prophet Joseph Smith, chosen as appropriate for this fasting and prayer from 5 o'clock Sunday eve till 5 today. Lily, Helen, and George attended meeting forenoon and afternoon at our chapel. We all fasted. Flora and I at home, though near 2 o'clock I was so sinking, and Helen too, she warming baby. We drank some milk, I read a good deal, and took care of baby. Had a short nap which helped my headache. Very windy and some rain, no snow on the ground. Tuesday 24th. Feeling well. Lily helped do hence washing. I did some copying. Mild weather. Flawed came and brought some presents and took Hent to Savage's to get a lovely painted and framed picture of Helen and Brady for George, a Christmas gift. She left a bed comforter of down for me, and I discovered it, with other things which Hent had arranged for morning. With the rest I gave some tokens to hang on the Christmas tree. Christmas. A merry happy day. Forenoon spent giving and receiving gifts. Soul brought me father's and mother's pictures framed. I gave him handkerchief. Helen a hymn book and handkerchief. Received one of the latter from Mary. Flora lovely white satin one from Clark. Gilt china cup and saucer with Remember Me from Tui. Necktie of black lace and ribbon from E. Piper, and a paper cutter from L. Decker with a pen holder inside, and the likeness of Mr. and Mrs. Cleveland at one end and framed with stars and stripes with their names under. George Bourne gave me a bottle of Cal port wine. We got a box today from Jen, with gifts for us all and for Zine and children. Mine was a lovely white satin card with flowers, a cord, and in gilt. A Merry Christmas. Were taken in hack to Orson's, where was spent the rest of the day with music, song, and chatting. Orson played on guitar, and sung Flawed, and Hent on organ and sung, and we also had feasting. Bud and family were there, Hen, and Flawed, and George, and children. Flawed brought me a silver-smelling bottle from Sister A. Dinwoody. Zine gave me a box with 2 brushes for teeth, and brush and comb, and Racy a collar. I never spent a happier Christmas. I gave 2 books of Deseret News of my father's with H.C. Kimball on the covers to Orson, and gave gifts to Zine and each child. Raining, going and returning, rode back in hack, and Flawed and Hen with us. Friday 27th, laid abed late. Lil washing. Flawed came, and I gave her a little basket bought for her and sent a silk handkerchief to Hen. Forgot receiving $5 yesterday from Bro Patrick and a load of beautiful coal from Bro Rossiter. Mary W. received the same. The coal came this morning, lol, and George Rinders called this eve rainy weather. Saturday 28th, thankful for a good night's sleep, and feels so well spent today in my parlor. Clean my other rooms, got another jug of microbe killer. Weather cold but pleasant. Sunday 29th. Another fine day. Soul visited me as usual. Spent the day in parlor, did a little writing. Mon 30th. Still sleep good and grateful for it. Lily had an awful crying spell this morn and felt relieved by it. The sky looks like snow. Girls washing. I took care baby and wrote some. Received a letter from Jen. Tuesday 31st, snowing all night, and today made fire in parlor to melt the snow in chimney. Copied a little.